Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of intense racing action in the NXTCC, or the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship Season 5, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing, and powered by IMB Racewear. Today marks round 5 of 10, and as we reach the concluding round of the first half of the season, we commence our German doubleheader. It all begins at the German circuit of the Nürburgring GP-Strecke. We're not quite taken to the Nordschleife loop, which many of you will know, and indeed an infamous circuit around the world, but instead we're going to be racing the more modern Nürburgring circuit. And whilst it may be sitting in the shadow of its neighbouring Loud, this is a circuit not to be underestimated. Originally introduced as a means of bringing a major international series to the German circuit, albeit without the safety concerns of the Nordschleife, which is still raced on today. This circuit has gone on to host many series, including Formula 1, Touring Car Racing Europe, and on top of that, GT World Challenge, previously known as Blancpain Championship. And with it all is a rather interesting sequence set of corners. In the fact, we have the best part of 16 corners on the BES World Endurance Championship layout, which our drivers will be racing on today. And as our drivers get ready to go attacking around the circuit, they'll find themselves under the major pressure in order to get things right. Because over the course of the 16 corners, there are 4 unique sectors, and all those pose a rather different challenge. Will it be the Mercedes Arena, which kicks off lap, which is the lowest speed corners of the circuit? Indeed, it's all about the late apexes and getting the maximum possible rotation in the car, or the latter half of the circuit, and particularly the final sector, which sees our drivers charge through the fast layout of the Vidal chicane. There's plenty to look forward to, and plenty of batting as well for our drivers to negotiate as they get themselves set up and look for success and taking victory into the second half of the season. But who will be able to do it? That's what we're going to find out today. And we're welcoming you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side, available on free media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, we are broadcasting to the 2 official Next Gen Racing media platforms, which do include YouTube. That's at youtube.com. Search for Next Gen Racing. Hello to you guys and girls on YouTube. Alternatively, we also do have the Facebook broadcast, which is available on facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing. And welcome to you girls and guys on Facebook. And we also do have the unofficial broadcast available only on Twitch, and that's at twitch.tv/TX141, and welcome to you guys and girls on Twitch. And some of you may be asking, who is TX141? Well, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And I'll be bringing you all your racing action tonight, and indeed over the entirety of the season. And speaking of tonight, let's take you through your scheduled times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinated Time at UTC. And as we can see, in just under 18 minutes time, we'll be making our way into qualifying, 15 minutes in duration as always, with all our drivers out on the circuit and looking to go for pole. And pole position could be critical to success here, and we'll explain shortly as to why, particularly if you're carrying success ballast in the races, given the fact that this circuit does have a number of elevation changes, albeit they're very slight at first, but noticeable once that weight goes into the car. But after we complete qualifying, we'll be going to the grid for our first race of the day. 3 10-lap races to account for, as always, 3 races around, and we kick off with race number 1 at 8:15. After that, we'll take a brief breather, but not without our reverse grid draw in preparation for race number 2, and then we'll return at approximately just before 9 o'clock for the build-up to race number 2, and then once race number 2 concludes, we'll do another reverse grid draw for race number 3, after which we'll get ourselves set and return just prior to 9:45 this evening for our final race of the day, and that'll be our 15th race of the season. Indeed, there we might be able to see who are our emerging championship favourites, or will it be completely wide open still in our classes? We'll have to wait and see. But let's give you a reminder of the championship calendar thus far and what we still got lying in wait, as it's a very pleasant day here in Germany. And as we can see, now we make our way to the 12th of December, and indeed we are at the halfway point. Prior to this, of course, we start off on the 7th of November at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. We kicked off a bang in the Kent County circuit in the United Kingdom, and then we saw plenty of batting, particularly the front of the field, with defending champion Mikey Doble batting with newcomer Wojciech Swirydowicz, and brilliant batting between the two of them then. Isaac Doble, meanwhile, absolutely delivering when Alex Meredith got it wrong on the opening race of the day. And then after round number 1, we made our way to United States of America for the Texan State circuit of the Circuit of the Americas. On the 14th of November, the West Layout played host to our drives once again, and what a day of racing it was, with Alex Meredith making a miraculous charge to the front of the field, and indeed taking all the wins and all the points with him in the Prime class. And meanwhile, in the overall championship, we got to see Wojciech Swirydowicz and Mikey Doble go toe-to-toe again, but also Joseph Doble again into the mix there, and indeed the Doble brothers exchanging points and prizes in amongst. But then we made our way to Brazil for round number 3 on the 21st of November, and now the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache. In Brazil, it was definitely all about the battles up, down, and through the field, whereby everywhere you looked, whether it was the front and the leading category, we got to see SRL Next Gen battling hard with both Dan Mould and also Adam Delmont fighting for the spoils, or further down the field, we got to see some brilliant batting. I mean the likes of Mark Sykes and also Paul Scott. And then we had our first mid-season break week. We returned last time out for round number 4, and that was on the 5th of December at the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, or what we more commonly refer to as Canadian Thruxton, in mention to the fact in Season 1, with Thruxton not available in the iRacing service, we decided to use at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park as an equivalent. And indeed, the circuit absolutely delivered last week with brilliant battling, but the biggest moment of it all was Jay Calais taking his first ever Pro-Am win, and with his first ever overall podium as well in the final race of the day, with a reverse grid benefited him, but still having to dig deep to hold on, and definitely delivering the goods there, and was a sensational conclusion to the racing in Canada. But today is the 12th of December, and we've made our way to Germany for the Nürburgring GP-Strecke, or the Grosser Preis-Strecke as it's known in full. And after today, we stay in Germany for the 19th of December, round number 6 at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben, where we're going to be racing on the alternate layout there, and indeed we'll be running with the original hairpin to open up the lap. And indeed, a good number of you may recall a certain quote from a touring car racing driver, John Cleland, with regards to opening corner, but more on that in a week's time. And then we're making our way into the second mid-season break, and of course Christmas week, everyone's allowed time off at Christmas, even our drivers, before we return for the final 4 rounds of the season. And we'll be kicking off 2024 in style on the 2nd of January with the Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours, the first time it's ever been on the NXTCC calendar, and you're going to see our drivers take on the tantalising beast that is the French circuit, with all its wide array of corners, referencing other circuits around the globe, before we make our way back to the United States of America for another first-timer in the form of the Sebring International Raceway in the US state of Florida. And following the 9th of January, we'll be making our way on the 16th of January back to the United Kingdom for a British doubleheader to wrap up the season. Our first ever visit to the Grand Prix layout of the Silverstone circuit up in Northamptonshire, and then we bring it all to a close with a Grand Prix layout at Donington Park on the 23rd of January, returning to the BTCC calendar for 2024, and it's only fair we pay tribute to the return of one of the greatest circuits in the United Kingdom by having it on our calendar for our season finale. But let's now bring you up to date with the championship stands after 4 rounds of racing, and we begin with the overall Drivers' Championship, and as we can see, a new name is taken to the top of the stands. It is Daniel Martin for RD Simsport, who leads on 454 points to 421 at Wojciech Swirydowicz. But as we do know, an advantage of 33 points, it doesn't last long in the NXTCC, and it can swing very quickly in terms of that momentum. But Martin was the man to beat last time out, and he made it count when it mattered most. Swirydowicz, meanwhile, despite the success, that's really holding him back, demonstrating for Semper Racing that he's there to stay inside the top 3, and therefore he holds on to P2, only 11 points clear of Joseph Doble. But meanwhile, Mikey Doble drops to P4, the lowest we've seen from him all season. But then again, knowing that it's a long way to go still, and that you've got to play the game of maximising your points from round to round, and you can't always guarantee you're going to be inside the top 3, so keep your eyes out for him today. And also keep your eyes out for Jamie Doran, 373 points, who I had the chance to catch up with briefly in the build-up to today, just before we went live, and I can tell you that he's looking forward to today, although he has some concerns with regards to success ballast in the Audi RS3, and we'll talk more about those in qualifying. And then outside the top 5 by a further point, Adam Delmont, who's finally turning things around, and the SRL Next Gen driver getting some good points on the board last time out, and now starting to encroach upon the top 5 slots. Meanwhile, Jaroslav Sabula, P7 on 358 points, perhaps not taking the spotlight compared to Swirydowicz, but then again, you can't count him out with that second place finish in race number 2 at Mosport, and definitely delivering the goods to the team, ahead of Gavin Garner, Lee Horn, and Paul Zanatachi, with Paul Zanatachi, the Affinity Racing driver, having a great end to his day at Mosport and delivering some great points on the board, and moves inside the top 10 once again on 279 points. 10 points behind him, Dan Mould down into P11, best of the rest there. The first time we've seen him outside the top 10 all season, but still he's got a few rounds to go, and he'll be looking to turn things around. And then you have your leading prime driver of Isaac Doble on 253 points. He's P12 ahead of Benjamin McCluskey on 240 points. Denotes quite a break in the field, with Sam Smith therefore the best part of what is 42 points behind, and he's ahead of Alex Meredith by 10 points. That's your top 15 with Nick Clemens P16 and only further 3 points behind. There's Martin Shirley, William Guthrie, Sam Van Olsen, Alan McCain who complete your top 20. And outside the top 20, P21, it's Reese Watt, ahead of Russell Fowler, with these two battling hard for the right to jump into the top 20, with Matthew Addy, P23, ahead of Ben Trier. And then it's Daniel Daniel completes the top 25 there. The Prime drive on 117 points to clear Fraser Elphick, who have recently been moved to the Prime class as of the conclusion of round number 3 going into round number 4. Definitely had a difficult time in Canada last week, and we're looking to have a better time today. John Higgins Jr., P27 on 97 points, equal with Jay Calais, albeit ahead based on result countback, and Calais there on 97 points, moving into the top 30 for the first time this season, and looking to carry that momentum forward tonight, as will be Ian Manners and Michael Lees, who both had a reasonable day last time out at the Motorsport Circuit, and they complete your top 30. Then P31 is Luciano Vitford. And a challenging day for the driver at Canada. In fact, it all went wrong when it was looking so good early on in the day. And the Brown Esports driver, knowing that luck has not been his friend this season, and he'll be hoping the bad luck does go away. Paul Scott matched him on 90 points, but behind based on result countback in P32. Next, Duncan Morais, Matthew Sheraton, and Raffles Zarsh completing your top 35, with Stephen Fry P36 and Alex Everett, with Wayne Douglas, Luke Jones, and then Harry Gaylor completing your top 40. Coming outside the top 40 into P41, we do have Mark Kent ahead of Damon Mulqueen, with Jonathan Collins and Hailey Bicknell completing the run to P44. And it's Jake Pitt and Callum Jenkins, the two Aztec Racing drivers, P45, P46, ahead of Mark Sykes, with James Spencer-Scow, Craig Tiddleston, and Andrew Holmes completing your top 50. And Andrew Holmes, the last driver to have a point against their name, within 0 points to George Watson, Peter Greenwood, Nigel Stock, Dom Joy, and also Scott Malcolm. And then Gabriel Yuez, Ian Wild, and Adam McNally all on negative points there, completing the standings due to post-race penalties. But now coming on to the IMB Racewear Prime Championship for this season, and as we can see, Isaac Doble leads the way on 527 points to 412 of Alex Meredith. And whilst Isaac Doble's lead has been cut slightly, to be fair, whilst he perhaps wasn't the star of motorsport, he's definitely continued to be consistent, and he's showing right now why he's your championship leader by 115 points. Now, it's a margin that can be very quickly cut. It only takes one misfortunate round for Isaac Doble, but do keep in mind there's a single round drop score in effect this season, and Isaac Doble right now is lining up a good set of points already to go into the latter half of the season, and if he does have a difficult round, he can afford to drop it. Meanwhile, everyone else is in pursuit, with Alex Meredith continuing to give the hunt. He's the leader of the hunt on 412, 3 clear of Matthew Addy, whose recent return to the Prime class definitely seems to have motivated and galvanised him, as he holds on to P3 by 6 points over Sam Smith. But keep your eyes on Sam Van Olsen in P5 as well, on 400 points. The Goldwing Motorsports driver finally breaking his way into the top 5 and looking strong now, and looking to try and hunt down that third place position as of today, perhaps even second. Alan McCain, meanwhile, further 13 points behind. The iRacing Esports driver can't be counted out, and the fact he's chasing after teammate Sam Smith, and the two have worked together over multiple rounds so far in order to get some great results on the board, with Daniel Downing at P7 on 382 points. The Goldwing Motorsport driver there eager to follow in the footsteps of Van Olst, and then we see Ben Altry at P8 on 372 points. Not quite able to replicate some of the performances in the first 3 rounds of the season, but still plenty of time to go for the full tilt B Motorsport driver, and he'll be eager to try and turn things around. Paul Scott and Fraser Elphick complete your top 10, and from the 316 points, the SRL NXTGEN driver is 296 for Jay Calais, who moves into best the rest, his highest position of the season thus far. Can he break into the top 10 as of today? We'll look to do so ahead of Matthew Cheverton, Duncan Morais, Luke Jones, and Raffles Zarsht. With then Stephen Fry P16 168 points, and the P739 Motorsports team having some of their best performances last time out. Keep your eyes on them today, they'll definitely be all fired up. And it's Mark Sykes, Harley Bicknell, Alex Everett, and James Spencer-Scow who complete your top 20. Outside the top 20, on 118 points, only 4 outside the top 20, it's Craig Tiddleston for FR20 Sim Race, and ahead of Callum Jenkins, with Peter Greenwood P23 on 98 points, 10 clear of Ian Wild, and there's Jonathan Collins who completes the top 25, with Mark Kemp P26 on 76 points, 3 clear of George Watson, and then it is Harder Gaylor, followed by Harry Gaylor, I should say, ahead of Jake Pitt and Scott Malcolm complete your top 30, and then Gabriel Yuez P31 ahead of Andrew Holmes, with Nigel Stott last driver to have points on the board, 25 points there for the Crest Autosport driver, and then P34 on 0 points so far, Dom Joy, who's yet to compete in a single round as I'm to understand it. But now coming on to reminding you of the teams at Championship, and here we can see it leading the way on 796 points to 752 of Semper Racing. It's none other than Doble Sim Race, and they continue to lead up front, but their advantage is slender and slim. And with that, it means that anyone at Semper Racing could jump into that lead position, as could RD Simsport, who move into P3 and are looking to close the gap to the top 2 after their great set of results over the last couple of rounds. And SRL NXTGEN find themselves in P4 a further 3 points behind. Four for them is NXTGEN Racing Pink, and the top 5 right now separated by a margin of what is only 78 points. It could not be closer if you tried to make it closer in terms of that top 5. And then iRacing Esports, a notable best of the rest contender there, P6 and 490 points. They're only 6 points clear of the combination of Brammer Esports, Performance Link Esports, and Affinity. NXTGEN with Sam Cases also follow suit a further 5 points behind with JW Motorsport. They're on 343 points. And really denotes right now with a battle between the top 5 contenders, and then we also do have the battle for P6 between our 3 teams from P6 through to P8, with then JW Motorsport in a bit of a no man's land right now, trying to break away from Goldwing Motorsport and close down the top 8. However, Goldwing Motorsport have cut the delta on 302 points to 343, and they're now only 41 points behind. Outside the top 10, by the best part of what is 13 points, is Full Tilt V Motorsport as they look to try and bring themselves a resurgence in points, with Aztec Racing P12 ahead of P739 Motorsports, Neds Crest Autosport, and the combination team of FR20 Sim Racing, Mali Motors, Whiskey Runners, and Sergi Sim Racing who complete your team's championship standings. But coming from our championship standings update, let's come to our circuit for today, and of course is none other than Nürburgring Strecke, or Grand Prix Strecke as many would refer to it, and we're going to be racing on the BES World Endurance Championship layout, the WEC layout, and located near the town of Nürburg in the Ahrweiler region of the Rhineland-Palatinate state of Germany. This is a circuit which is symbolic for a number of reasons. Indeed, some of the corner names definitely will be shouting out why it's symbolic. Located in the region of the city, albeit on the outskirts, it is a circuit which sits in the foothills of the Eifel Mountains and indeed overshadowed by its Nordschleife loop counterpart. But it's still a great circuit in its own right, as we can see from the circuit map provided us by iRacing.com, and thank you to them for their brilliant circuit maps and also their fantastic simulator. As our drivers make their way around, there's a number of iconic corners and corner sequences to denote. Perhaps most notably, of course, the Michael Schumacher S of turns 9 and 10. Keep on fighting, Michael, of course. Many of you will be keeping track of the fight of Michael Schumacher in his incident quite a few years ago, but still remembering that one of the greatest in motorsport, and this circuit always commemorates him as our drivers make their way across the start-finish line and charge their way down towards turn at number 1 into the Yokohama curve. They'll come into the opening hairpin, and as they go hard on the brakes there, it's downhill in the braking zone, and everyone will be trying to attack to the inside. But coming out of the corner, it's a switchback into the left-hand of the AMG Arena at turn number 2. While drivers need to bounce the throttles, they make their way over the rise and then charge downhill into turn number 3. Another downhill braking zone, but much lower speed at the apex this time, as they come on through the left-hander before switching back to the right-hander at turn number 4. After exiting the arena, it's then the run through the kink of 5 and up towards the left into right combination at turns 6 and 7, when it's all about balancing the car and managing that direction change. Get it right as our drivers wind their way downhill, and they'll charge even further downhill to the lowest point on the circuit of the Goodyear hairpin, and as they make their way onto the brakes, the heavily cambered hairpin will all be about going as deep as you possibly can on the brakes and attacking the corner in a V-shape approach. Get it right and you'll carry the speed out of the corner, and flat out they'll go up towards the Michael Schumacher S of turns 9 and 10, and as they make their way beyond the chicane, they'll head up towards Ravenold curve of turn number 11. There onto the brakes, it's an uphill rise coming through 11 and into the right-hander of Bilstein at turn number 12, and from the Bilstein curve, it's then the downhill descent into Advenbogen at turn number 13, flat out all the way for the right-hand kink, and uphill they'll go into the Vidal chicane, of which we're racing the fast layout today in turns 14 and 15, and as they exit the chicane, which is only one wide through, but indeed many a battle under braking into the chicane, they'll make their way towards the Hyundai N curve at turn number 16, recently renamed, and as they come through the corner, they'll go onto the start-finish straight to complete lap and do it all over again. Definitely the technical challenge around here, and in terms of overtaking places, we're expecting turns at 1, 3, 6, 7, 8, and also what is 14 and 15 to be the main overtaking spots of this circuit, so plenty of action to watch out for. But just before we go racing, let's give you a quick reminder of the rules, and in terms of setups firstly, this is a fixed setup series, and what that means is all the drivers have been provided with setups prior to each and every round by the NXTGEN Racing Administration. Driver class-wise, they were finalised as the conclusion of round number 3, so we did see they were finalised as we're going into round number 4 last week. If we do see any change in driver class, they will normally be in an emergency scenario if we have a newcomer on the grid. Sprint race-wise, the race 1 grid shall be set based on results of qualifying, that's a given. The race 2 grid shall be a reverse grid based on results of race number 1, with the reversal position being drawn live from between P6 and P12 from our commentary booth. We'll do the lottery bowl draw. And in race number 3, the grid shall be a reverse grid based on results of race number 2. The reversal position is extended and being drawn live from between P13 and P23. Indeed, it's the full field reverse grid race, so as close as possible to the full field as we'd like. track. Then we can see each driver has one fast repair available in each race should they pick up any damage at any point, and each race shall conclude after either the allotted lap amount or 30 minutes, whichever expires first. We are expecting the 10 laps of racing here to mean the racing goes on for about 21 minutes, where we do see the deployment of a safety car or two, we may reach the 30 minutes in a given race. Now, speaking of safety cars, we'll come on to race stewarding. An independent race director is stewarding the races for track limit infringements and also deployment of the safety car. And with regards to those pesky track limit infringements, they should be distributed as follows. The first and second warnings, there's no penalty. The third warning, there's a 5-second post-race time penalty. It's doubled to 10 seconds on the fourth warning. And on the fifth warning, well, it'll be a drive-through penalty for our drivers, which they must serve within 3 laps. Meanwhile, all racing incidents shall be reviewed at post-round. We should also remind you that success ballast is in effect for this season and applied on a race-by-race basis to both the overall and prime class championship standings. And for qualifying and race number 1, we'll see the success ballast applied based on the standings going into this round. Then in races 2 and 3, we will update the success ballast assignments based on the finishing positions of the previous race. And also to remind you there, as we can see, success ballast is applied to the overall championship to the top 10 from 56.1 kilograms all the way down to 4.7 kilograms. In the pro class, it's the top 5. But do keep in mind that if we do see a pro driver who manages to pick up a greater amount of success ballast in the overall finishing positions or the overall championship, then they shall take the greater success ballast going into the next race. So they can't get away with manipulating the system. We'll definitely catch them out in that regard. But that's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. You're all here for the racing. And what I'm very pleased to say, ladies and gentlemen, with only 30 seconds to go, well, the tempo has been set here as we get ready to go into qualifying. We're looking to Martin Shelley for RD Simsport. One of the teams to watch out for today, there's no doubt about it, as number 5 driver makes his way on through and up towards turn at number 14, as he makes his way onto the brakes. And number 5 driver all set, and well, most of the drivers in the pit lane currently, but it is a packed circuit today. We have got the best part of 42 drivers in attendance currently. We may have 1 or 2 more creep the way in before it's said and done in terms of going into qualifying. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the checker flag is out in this final practice warm-up session. It's time to see who is the master of a single lap at the Nürburgring. Let's find out who's going to be on pole. So as all of our drivers head into qualifying, well, what can we expect in this qualifying session? I think it's going to get crowded and very fast at that out on the circuit for the simple reason, whilst this circuit is a long circuit, it's also one of those circuits when cars can very easily taper together, and therefore it can lead to a number of drivers wanting to run at line astern and pick up the toe of one another. But of course you do have the big gamble, which is, do you run in the slipstream of another car and potentially compromise your ability to turn in, particularly into medium and high speed corners, or do you run in clear air, at least initially, and set some good banker laps under your own volition and your own natural pace that you'll most likely put together in practice. Now, saying that, we have heard some teams do practice qualifying sessions or have practice sessions earlier in the week whereby they do practice together and run the toe of one another in order to get used to the feeling of the car in the toe and therefore trying to maximise the lap time in qualifying. But as we do see Alex Meredith making his way down towards turn number 6 and onto the brakes he goes. Well, what format can we expect here in terms of our cars? Well, it's going to be an interesting qualifying session because without success ballast, all 4 of our machines on the grid, where it be the Hyundai Elantra being piloted by Alex Meredith here, alternatively the Hyundai Veloster has been piloted by Jay Calais, alternatively the Honda Civic Type R piloted by Duncan at Moraes, as you can see here, alternatively what would be at the Audi RS3, Reswap Rhino fine example. All of these cars have got an opportunity to be on pole, and now of course that's a given, but we do mean it in the fact that all 4 of the machines will find themselves having an advantage at different points of the lap. Now, starting with the Audi, this has definitely been the car that's been all about straight line speed and acceleration, and also it's quite a stable car in the regard, albeit it does struggle at lower speed corner sequences given the very aggressive gear ratios of the car, whereby most cars that be down in say 2nd gear for a low speed corner, the Audi would be in 4th gear by comparison. But what it does mean is that in the opening half lap we can expect our Audi drivers to struggle to a degree, but as they make their way out of the Mercedes arena and start to build up the average speed, particularly after they clear where's the Goodyear hairpin at turn number 8, that is where we'll see the Audi really start to flourish and build up the maximum possible attack speed. Conversely, meanwhile, the Honda Civic Type R will be at the other end of the spectrum, where it is the cornering machine and the one that's the best on the brakes. So therefore, in the lower speed corner sequences, and particularly in those heavy braking zones, such as running towards turn number 1, and you're going to see it again shortly coming up into the Vidal chicane here, albeit Martin Shelley braking early to release some drives behind him. This is where we're going to see the Hondas do extremely well under braking, but they'll lose that in terms of the top speed stakes, particularly the run coming out of turn number 12 and up towards the Vidal chicane at turns at 14 and 15. So when does that leave the Hyundai Veloster in between and also the Hyundai Elantra? Well, speaking of the what is the Elantra, and here is an example that's been piloted by Full Tilt Motorsports' Ben Aldria. This has been the one-lap pace car, typically in the fact it is strong in most regards, and as he makes his way down to turn number 1, we are expecting Elantras to go very well under single-lap pace, given the fact there's nothing that really holds this car back. You could argue it doesn't quite have the top speed or the acceleration of the Audi, but it's only out by a small margin, and whilst it doesn't have the brakes that Honda Civic Type R, it does have a strong set of brakes, but it does also have a very loose rear end, and with the rear wheel brake bias, the drivers will be running in this car in order to maximise the rotation. It does mean the car is very sensitive under heavy braking, particularly when you try to trail off the brake and turn it into a corner, as we did see there briefly for Trier going into turn number 3. We are expecting Elantras, as usual, to be right up there, and meanwhile the Velosters, by comparison, of which we see one just in front making its way on around. I believe that's William Guthrie behind the wheel of the car. As he makes his way on through there, we are expecting the Velosters to also be quite strong here, as they are jack of all trades cars when they don't really have any major strengths, but they don't have any significant weaknesses, and therefore it will go well at this circuit as a whole. So it does mean we have an interesting combination. We'll see our Audis and Honda drivers really have to minimise and maximise their approach. Meanwhile, our Hyundai drivers, by comparison, can take a bit more of a casual approach to this qualifying session and just focus on delivering the lap and not having to exploit the strengths and weaknesses of the car. But meanwhile, in the race, of course, particularly if we've got a warm circuit, we will see tyres start to go off sooner rather than later, and it's the Elantra drivers who suffer most when we do have quite excessively high track temperatures, of which day I can tell you in this qualifying session currently on the right hand side of your screen, 36 degrees ambient 36 degrees track temperature, that's in centigrade, 18 degrees centigrade track temperature. It's not as high as perhaps some would expect compared to earlier on in the season, but it does mean we are at the threshold whereby the Elantra drivers might start to lose a little bit of life in the front tyres 1 or 2 laps sooner compared to their rivals, and particularly in the final quarter of the race, that could be the difference between a Elantra driver running away for victory, alternatively falling foul and falling to second place. But as our first lap times are starting to come on the board, we are expecting these laps to come charging down into the 207s over the course of the qualifying session, no question about it. Indeed, all the drivers putting their first laps on the board right now, and therefore they'll be feeling themselves in terms of just wanting to get the car sighted in, get themselves as a driver sighted in, start to build that flow and rhythm. And speaking about this Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit, what do you have to do in order to get pole position here? Well, it really is a test of your technical abilities. We do see there Guthrie and also the Natachi having a little bit of an altercation as they make their way out of turn 1 into 2. Both drivers wanting to stay on their racing line and therefore be on their qualifying laps, but in the end they are going to compromise one another. Neither one wants to give way, and in the end both of them send each other off the circuit. There was some further contact. The two Veloster drivers definitely not giving in. I think one of them's going to decide to back off shortly, as always they might be called to the stewards room after today and be given a little bit of a finger wagging with regards to behaviour as they make their way through turn number 5, keeping it clean at the moment, and Guthrie does in the end relent. And that's going to cost them both the best part of a flying lap, and that may cost them the best part of which is 2 minutes and 10 seconds to reset things and go qualifying once again. But meanwhile, as we do look to Harley Bicknell making his way on down here, the JW Motorsport driver charges his way down towards turn number 8, and as he makes his way onto the race, currently P16, albeit we still got half the field to put a lap on the board, so don't take it as gospel that P16 is going to stay, but we expect it to shift anyway, given the fact the lap times evolve very aggressively from flying lap to flying lap. But right now looking to try and a little bit further, and the reason we talked earlier about what was success bars and how it can have an impact, notice as Bicknell and company were making their way up the hill through the Schumacher S there, the fact it's quite a significant uphill gradient, and the more and more success bars you have in the car, it does mean the acceleration you get uphill is going to be compromised. I mean, on the downhill braking zones, the car will not want to stop as easily, so that's always a factor as well. But with a number of uphill acceleration zones, you're going to see another one, a very gentle uphill acceleration zone here, coming out of the Advan corner at turn number 13 up towards Vidal. Well, with that, those small gradient changes, they do have a notable effect, particularly if you've got, say, 56.1 kilograms of success ballast in the car, of which Daniel Martin will be the man who is going to suffer from that the most. And we'll speaking of Daniel Martin, here he is in the rear of the picture. Now he's the focus of our cameraman's attention as he makes his way into turn number 16, coming up through the long right-hander, and knowing he's going to be up against it as he comes to the line. What's his first lap going to be? Is he side by side there with none other than what is Luke Jones? He crosses the line, and for Daniel Martin, I don't think it's a valid lap on the board. It looks like he's going to have to go again as he finally steps ahead of Luke Jones, albeit Martin leaving it to the halfway point of this session to start to get his first flying lap on the board. But track limits can be very oppressive, particularly in the Mercedes arena. You want to run off as much as possible to open up the corners, but of course you put more than 2 wheels beyond those white lines and you'll fall foul of the automated iRacing track limit system, and you'll have to wait until the next lap to go again. But meanwhile, looking at the top of the standings then, it is Semper racing at 1-2 currently. Wojciech Swirydowicz ahead of Jaroslav Sabula by 1/10 on the 207.602. We are expecting low 207s here for pole today, and with half the qualifying session still to go, we are already on our way to see those low 207s come to fruition, as right now Swirydowicz definitely once again showing his prowess in the Elantra, in the fact that this man, a racer in the World Touring Car Race Championship on iRacing, and made his debut in the NXTCC for this season, and he's already taken himself to the very best of the field and showing that he has got the credentials to fight for that championship. But it's a long season ahead and just taking it one round at a time. But as he does so, we take it one name at a time in saying hello to you guys and girls in the respective chats, including saying hello to John Meredith there in the YouTube chat. It says Nürburgring baby, looking forward to this one. Good luck to all the drivers, but mostly Alex, of course, supported on his son. It's always great to see the Meredith family tuning on in Father John there. And indeed, we did see John Meredith on the grid in season 4 of the NXTCC, and it's always great to see you out there, John. We do miss you, but at the same time, we're very happy to have you tuning in by the YouTube broadcast. And we also do say hello in the Facebook chat to Elwin Sykes, who says, "What's up, boys? Good evening, Paul and Next Gen team, and good evening to you, Elwin, and I hope you're doing well." And Elwin Sykes, a previous competitor in the NXTCC in the Prime class, back in season 3, and indeed racing as part of, goodness me, the team name escapes me at this time, but racing as part of a major South African outfit, and well, enjoying the racing there and enjoying his battling in the Prime class, but still focusing on the teams on the grid. I'm sure Elwin will fill in the team name for me. My memory's just a little bit forgetful today, and well, the drivers make the way on through. Paul Scott tucking in behind there. Mark Sykes, they make the way on through turn number 13, and then up towards turns 14 and 15, as they charge the way up the hill and in to the braking zone. Right now, the Audi RS3 driver currently P20, and looking to go a bit further as he drops to P22. Some more lap times coming in. A new pole lap as well from William Guthrie overall at 207.595. That's 6,000 faster than Swirydowicz's time. Meanwhile, a surprise lap, a welcome one to be sure. Daniel Down in P3 currently. The Prime driver there putting himself all the way up the order. And as we see it, Paul Scott making his way across the timeline. We are surely going to bring you an on-board lap with one of our drivers here at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit to give you an idea of what it's all about from the perspective of driving a touring car racing class machine. And well, we do look a little bit further back to none other than what is, I think, Daniel Martin. He'll be very shortly crossing the timing line, albeit we are just waiting for the camera feed to come to his car, albeit I don't think we're getting it at the moment, unfortunately, ladies and gents. We do apologise for that, but what we will be doing instead is getting you a camera feed with none other. And then what will be Adam Delmont as he makes his way out the final corner, and we jump on board with the SRL with Next Gen driver as he takes us around for a flying lap in the Honda Civic Type R. He's making his way down towards turn 1 as he goes P8 initially, and on 207.902, and onto the brakes he goes into turn 1, braking about 110 metres from corner apex. And you notice he points the car in under trail, braking into the hairpin, and immediately back on the throttle from first gear up towards second gear as he comes onto the rise, brings the car in nice and early to the apex. Very aggressive approach here from Delmont as he comes out of the corner, flat out and run down towards turn 3. It's a short run, braking nice and early, braking about 90 metres from corner apex, waits for the last minute to touch the apex curve, brings the car to the left and snaps it back to the right for turn number 4. Second gear as he exits the corner, back to full throttle, using the runoff area as much as he possibly can, and now making his way through the kink of 5 and down towards 6, and onto the brakes he goes. Now braking at the end of the escape road edge, about 100 metres from corner apex, and brings the car over to the left-hand side for turn number 7. Sharp on the brakes once again. Notice how he dances there on the rear brake rotation with that rearward brake bias, upsetting the rear of the car, but intentionally to get extra rotation. And coming all the way down towards turn number 8. A nice long run here in towards the hairpin, onto the Goodyear hairpin. The braking zone he goes, braking at the start of the entry curve on the left-hand side, about 120 metres from corner apex. Takes a U-shape approach to the apex there. You can take one or two. You can do it as a double apex U-shape, or alternatively a single apex V-shape, and now flat out all the way up into turn at number 9. He's going to fully commit here, flat out over both of the curves of the Schumacher S chicane, while making his way up towards turn number 11. It's a good lap from Delmont so far. Still a way to go as he now breaks his way into turn number 11, braking about 105 metres from corner apex. Trail braking to third as he clears the corner, brings it over to left now for turn number 12. Through Bilstein he goes, and as he comes on through the right-hander, waiting to beat the throttle in third gear, but now flat out all the way up towards turn number 14 via the kink at 13, coming through the right hander, and onwards he goes up the hill, and as he makes his way in towards the next braking zone, looking to his right hand side with the brake markers, those markers being for the slow chicane, but braking at the 50 board for the VDOL chicane. third gear as he serpentines his way on through, and now in towards turn number 16 here. Very sharp on the brakes there from Delmont down to second gear, using the toe of teammate Dan Mould as well in front of him, and as he comes out of the corner, that is a lap of the Nürburgring Grand Prix WEC layout as brought to you by Adam Delmont, and it's a lovely lap. It puts him P4 on a 207.66 rate, and definitely showing that Honda Civic Type R has got what it needs today to be right up there versus its rivals as he makes his way down the distant camera shot there into turn number 1-9. There's 2.5 minutes left on the board and looking to try and get a little bit more out there before all is said and done. And he does so, making his way on through. Meanwhile, we look back to your pole man right now overall, and it's the pro of William Guthrie, who in the Hyundai and Veloster definitely showing right now that he's not just there to make up the field, and definitely has had a bit of a run of bad luck over the course of the season, but making it count today as he comes on through turn number 13. He is 1.5 cents faster than Wojciech Swirydowicz currently, but remember, Guthrie does not have success ballast in the car. Swirydowicz meanwhile has the second place success ballast by comparison, and that is testament to Swirydowicz currently in terms of how high he's getting that car to go, despite the fact he's carrying the best part of almost 50 kilograms of success ballast. But Guthrie as well, as he makes his way through turn number 16, he'll have one more lap available to him. He heads to the line. He's picked up a couple of personal best sectors in sectors 1 and 3 in terms of the subsectors. Across the line, it's not enough. Just missed out, improving by 200s. Meanwhile, Daniel Martin moves up to P10. But here we go with our pro and provisional pole sitter as well. Daniel Downing, the Goldwing Motorsports driver, who we briefly lose and have rematerialised from the internet ether. He's currently P6. He may be the only pro to qualify inside the top 10 today overall. So that'd be a huge achievement, a great way to start off the day for Daniel Downey. Can he make it happen? Can he keep it a reality here? We'll wait and see as he comes on through. Lee Horn goes to P7. Wayne Douglas of camera goes to P10. Meanwhile, Paul Scott improves to P22. But from then we do look to none other than what is Rafał Zaszcz. And right now, P24 for the Semper Racing Honda Civic driver as he crossed the line to go on to one final flying lap. A minute left on the clock. P8 in class at the moment. It does look as though this Nürburgring circuit suiting him a little bit more compared to previous venues we've been to, where Zaszcz has not been on the pace. But as he makes his way out to turn 1 and into turn number 2, of course, this qualifying field absolutely tight as you like it, with the fact we do have what is the top 29 separated by under a second, and Sam Smith just a further 300ths of field in P30 right now. These qualifying sessions always close, but this one incredibly so. And as he makes his way on through, we do say hello in the Facebook chat to Neil Cravens, wishing everyone good luck, and particularly to NXTGEN Racing, saying up the NXTGEN. And as we do see Zaszcz making his way through turn number 6 into 7. More from there, we do have drivers starting to make the way to the finish line in this qualifying session, including Peter Greenwood, the P739 Motorsports driver, heading into the braking zone, as I am hearing that Dane Mulqueen has not been able to set a lap in this session. Issue with the car, so we may not see Mulqueen out there at all and starting from P42, but Greenwood is into the pits there, decides to abort the lap. But as he comes on in, meanwhile, one driver's got his time coming on in. It's Wojciech Swirydowicz. He's gone purple in subsector 1. Can he find more time out than the final sector? He does. Is it enough? As he crosses the line, it's provisional pole for Swirydowicz at 207.424. Can anybody respond to that? Can Guthrie counter-attack here? Meanwhile, just coming to the line as well, we do have Isaac Doble, who's a long way down the order, down in P39. He's coming to line. Remember, he's got the maximum success ballast of the prime class, 32.5 kilograms. As he makes his way across the line in the end for Isaac Doble, it's P39 at best. It's a struggle for Isaac Doble. He's going to do it all in the race. Is that weight really holding him down? Meanwhile, Wayne Douglas coming on through Vidal, and I can tell you that Paul Zanatachi just moved up to P5 for Affinity at 207.652. More drives coming to the pits. It definitely is getting very close and nippy at the very tail end of this qualifying session. And as we do see Douglas making his way to the line, can he improve from P11? Daniel Downing has already finished his qualifying session. He's P7 at best. Douglas crosses the line. It's not going to be an improvement here for the NXTGEN Racing Pink driver. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, most of our drivers have completed their qualifying laps. We do have Duncan Rice coming on through. He's currently P34, always P14 in the prime class. He crossed the line. Does he improve a little bit further here from his current position? He does improve his lap time, but it's not enough to improve his position. He stays P34, P14 in the prime class. And we also do have Adam Delmont making his way on through the final corners here. He's going to be one of the very last drivers. Craig Tillotson cross the line, P40, and is going to stay there by looks of things. Adam Delmont does not improve as he gives the toe to Dan Mould, and Mould is given the opportunity to improve to P70. And a great bit of teamwork there from the SRL NXTGEN drivers, both of them aiding one another. We rode on board when Mould was given the toe to Delmont, and the favour has been returned. It means they'll be lined up together inside the top 10, but that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. It's Wojciech Swirydowicz has been able to steal away pole position from this man at William Guthrie on the front row, and there'll be your pro front row ahead of the field, and then starting P8, he's in the pits at the moment, will be your prime pole sitter in the IMB Racewear class. It'll be Daniel Downey who takes his first prime pole position of the season, and the only prime to qualify inside the top 10. Your next prime will be Ben Altria, starting at P15 for Full Tilt V Motorsport. We've definitely got an interesting qualifying grid today, and a lot of big names as well outside the top 10. Note there, Paul Zanatachi P5, also Russell Fowler P4. A great return to form for the Performance Link Esports driver. It's going to be a shake up in the field for race number 1, but the question is, who's going to be the winner come the end of it? We're going to find out shortly, ladies and gentlemen, because we will be transitioning to the grid in approximately a minute's time. But either way you look at it right now, we're in for some sensational racing, and it all will start with the first race of the day after what has been a challenging qualifying session for many. But as we see Matthew Addy making his way towards turn number 13, all right there, P5 in class, P21 overall, good qualifying session for the Veloster driver for Sam Case with NXTGEN, and he'll feel as though things are finally turning uphill in terms of getting good as he makes his way in towards turns 14 and 15. But he knows qualifying is just one part of the day as he makes his way into the pit lane, and we do see Ian Manners and also what is there, none other than Harley Bicknell following suit. So they're all coming into the pits, and that does mean we are only moments away from making our way to the grid. But as our drivers make the way onto the grid for the first race of the day, this is how they'll line up for race 1 of round number 5 of season 5 of the NXTCC. It is Wojciech Swirydowicz who takes pole position for Semper Racing, joined on the front row by none other than William Guthrie for Full Tilt V Motorsport. Behind them, Luciano Vitford for Brammer Esports, and then Russell Fowler, the British driver there for Performance Link Esports, starting at P4. We see Paul Zanatachi starting P5 for Affinity, joined by SRL NXTGEN's Adam Delmont, and then on row number 4, Dan Mull for SRL NXTGEN, and Goldwing Motorsport's pole sitter in the Prime class, Daniel Downing. Congratulations to him, starting at P8. Lee Horn starts P9 for NXTGEN with Sam Cases, joined on the 5th row of the grid to complete the top 10 by Jaroslav Sabula for Semper Racing, and it's Wayne Douglas and Mikey Doble on row number 6. On row 7 behind them, Daniel Martin and Jamie Dory, followed up by your second place prime driver on the grid of Ben Altria for Full Tilt V Motorsport. Then with Benjamin McCluskey starting P16. P17, it's Alex Meredith ahead of Reswap for JW Motorsport, and it's Luke Jones and Nick Clemens who complete your top 20. On row number 11, Matthew Addy starts P21 ahead of Stephen Fry as his best ever qualifying performance. Well done, Stephen Fry, for P6 in the prime class. And it's Paul Scott and Raffles Zarst on row number 12. And then behind them on row number 13, it's going to be the combination of Ian Maz and Gavin Gardner, with Mark Sykes and Jay Calais on row 14. And then the top 30 being completed by Joe Zadol and Alex Everett. Sam Smith starts P31 ahead of Martin Shirley, with Alan McCain on the 17th row of the grid being joined by Duncan Moraes. And then we have on row number 18 Harley Bicknell and Sam Van Olst, with what is the top 40 being rounded up by the pairing of Matthew Sheraton, Andrew Holmes, and Isaac Dower and Craig Tillerston. Now on row 21, the final row of the grid, it's Peter Greenwood and Damon Mulqueen. Damon Mulqueen not getting a lap in qualifying, so he's got to do the hard work from the back of the field in the pro class. But the field is set, ladies and gentlemen. We are only moments away from green flag racing. 42 cars on the grid, all set and ready to go. And Wojciech Swirydowicz will lead them all down towards turn number 1. It's a standing start as always, but the big question remains, will it be Swirydowicz who leads come the end of the first corner? Well, here come the lights. Let's find out, because it's going to be 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights on, away we go, but it's a jump start for Swirydowicz. He lurches forward there. Now, will that be a black flag and a potential automatic drive-through penalty? We'll have to see. But anyway, Guthrie gets the jump as a result as they make the way down towards turn number 1. 42 cars roaring down to the braking zone. And as they all come through, it gets very close and tight and tucked in between drivers. We see Adam Delman up to P4 already on the attack here. Great start from the Honda driver as all the drivers make their way through. There's been an incident further down the order. I believe there's a bit of contact involving what was potentially Sam Smith and Duncan Rice and Jay Calais, but they all seem to negotiate it. Car being fired off the circuit there. My look, since that was Jamie Dory running a bit wide, but as they make their way down to the braking zone here. Meanwhile, we look to Paul Zanatachi coming out of the Mercedes arena, and he's battling side by side with Adam Delmont. Gets back ahead of Delmont after Delmont's fantastic start. And as they make the way in towards turn number 6, onto the brakes they go, and the Affinity driver here now stopping the flow of places. But meanwhile, Luciano Vitford falling back down to P6, so the Brammer Esports driver, and perhaps the worst start of the top 10, losing 3 places off the line. But as he makes his way up towards turn number 8, 9, he's got more to contend with. Dan Mould right behind him, but meanwhile further back we can see there Mikey Doe and Daniel Downing fighting. Down the outside, Doe on the inside. I think right now Downing is not going to fight this too hard. knowing that he needs to just simply hold on to the prime class lead as they make the way out of turn number 8 and up the hill they go. But you'll notice there, Doble right now with the weight in the car, not really able to out-drag Downing, and it's going to be side by side into the Schumacher S, but in the end, Doble loses out as meanwhile Cibula and McCluskey tucking behind him, and Reeswat also there. But from them, we look to Adam Delman here, batting 3 wide almost with Zanatachi ahead and Bitford behind as they make the way in towards turn number 12 and coming on through. Well, battles are plenty wherever you look right now as Gavin Gardner also trying to fight his way through the field after a very difficult qualifying session, qualifying well outside the top 20. He's got the company of Paul Scott and Alex Everett around him, with Alex Everett battling with Paul Scott for position. That's for P7 in the prime class as the two make the way through turn number 13. And well, right now Gardner and Scott trying to work together in order to keep Everett behind. But if anything, this is only going to give Everett the toe. He's going to look up the inside into Vido, goes all in the brakes. The Honda's got the better brakes of any other car on the grid, and it shows there as he makes the place. A nice move from Alex Everett as meanwhile right on the inside, that's Lee Horn on the inside into the pit lane, and I believe with that some damage accrued for the next gen with Sam Case's driver, and into the pits he comes. But after one lap of racing, it is William Guthrie who leads ahead of Wojciech Swirydowicz P2, Russell Fowler P3, Paul Zanatachi P4, and Delman P5, but Luciano Vitford up the inside of Delman into the braking zone. It's going to be 3 wide on the braking here, albeit the Affinity driver clear. Meanwhile, contact between Vitford and Delman, and with that, look who tries to get in the middle. It's Dan Mould who goes between the two, does the Moses manoeuvre and gets the job done for P5 as the SRL Next Gen driver not afraid of making opportunities count. Meanwhile, the battle's still on for P6 between Vitford and Delman as they make the way through the left into right at turns 3 and 4, and this fight is going to cost them a huge amount of time. But the Bram Esports driver finally gets his position, but now Jamie Dory trying to get into the mix here. Delman's not too pleased with that, flashing his lights trying to distract in return, but Dory now right on the offensive, and the Next Gen Pink driver just needs to play it smart as they make the way through the left into right, and no, the places will come as the two fight. You see Delman trying to squeeze his nose up the inside there into turn number 7, really trying to get under the skin of Vitford, and right now these two battling hard. But meanwhile, Dory now looking down the inside of Delman coming down into turn number 8, flashing lights there as well, trying to distract, wins Vitford and get him to make a mistake, make 2 places at the cost of 1 corner. But as they make the way through the right hand, there's a bit of an error there from what looks to be Vitford, and as a result, Dory's going to take the place, or will it? It's going to be a drag race up towards the Schumacher S. They can only go one way through, and in the end, it will be Dory who takes the place. Meanwhile, third behind Doble on the attack versus Wayne Douglas here, as right now number 88 driver from the United Kingdom looking to put pressure on his fellow countryman, but as they make the way into the braking zone, no way through. Meanwhile, McCluskey battling with Reese Watt here in the battle of what is the Audi of the JW Motorsport 32 versus the Veloster of what is McCluskey in the 531 as they come on through. McCluskey around the outside to defend his gains as they come on through, and he takes P14 as a result. But behind him, Ben Altry and Alex Meredith fighting for second place in the prime class as well. So every position right now under threat between drivers, particularly in the top 10 of the overall, and also was the prime class as they make the way through. This is Altria under major pressure from what is Meredith, but in the end, Meredith having to back off there as they go into Vidal, knowing that Tudor's not going to run through the fast chicane, and instead opting to prepare himself for the next lap as we ride on board and look back from the rear of the 504 driver of Altria. And these two, we haven't seen too much fighting between them, but both championship contenders this season, or these both fighting for the right to be P2 and chasing down Isaac Doble. And right now you can see how Meredith closed, but not quite able to close up enough. That success balance being felt in Meredith's car. Well, Ben Altria with very little weight in the car, if any at all. And as they come down to turn at number 1, Matthew Addy trying to get in the mix there as well. He's fighting hard for position, but can't find a way in at this time, trying to make a dent, and therefore not quite able to find a way fully into position to go for the move, but trying to signal his intentions. But behind them as well, Luke Jones, the JW Motorsport 222 driver, he's had one of his greatest qualifying performances of the season as they make the way through. Waltree and Meredith are going to battle hard here, going out of the Mercedes arena, and what this is going to do is going to cause all 4 of them to concertina together. You've got Nick Clemens and Gavin Gardner on the back of this as well, the 2 pro drives, but here is the Altria going defensive onto the inside of turn number 6, onto the brakes they go, and as they make the way through, well, no way through for Meredith into turn 6, but he gets Altria to go overly deep, and that's going to give Meredith the opportunity to go around the outside, but he's going to run out of room, surely. Indeed he does, and has to back off there. Altria doesn't squeeze him too hard, but says to him, look, back off now, otherwise we're both going to the gravel, and sense prevails there for both drivers. They make the way into turn number 8, but meanwhile Addy up the inside, it's a late move on the braking, but he sees the opportunity, catches Meredith by surprise, a bit of door up in between the two of them, but he won't be touring car about it as they make the way towards the Schumacher S. Now will it be Addy, will it be Meredith who leads coming out of it? Well, Meredith's going to go all in here, try and make it 2-1, but Addy holds it around the outside to inside. Brilliant racecraft between these guys. We do see Mark Clemens going wide in the background, and from there it's now going to be a battle on the brakes as meanwhile Luke Jones tries to get involved as well, but he's got Gardner for company behind them. From them we do look a little bit further back, and here's a smaller battle between Harley Bicknell and what is Mark Sykes, as meanwhile And Dale McQueen close on the back. He's fighting his way through from P42, but Bicknell fighting Mark Sykes for P12 in the Prime class, and they'll both be looking for some good points on the board. The JW Motorsport driver here looking to try and echo the sentiment of his fellow JW Motorsport teammates have been a bit perhaps more in the spotlight by comparison, but still Bicknell will want to show that he's also a part of the crew and gain points to the team as they make their way in towards turn 14, and onto the brakes they go, and as they do, Wojciech Swirydowicz into the pit lanes. Look at my commentary booth window, and that will be for the jump start. But meanwhile, Bicknell does get the move done there versus Sykes in a bit of a wounded car, but in the end it makes it count. Wayne Douglas into the pits as well. I wonder if there was a jump start for Wayne Douglas. Indeed, a number of drives being called out, it would seem, but meanwhile from them we've got to look back to the front of the field because that's Dan Mould up the inside of Zanatachi, but it's not over yet as they make the way through turn number 2. The battle of the Velocitas here, and Moulder right now definitely coming fully alive after that P7 start as they make the way down into turn number 3 for the 4th time of asking. Harden the anchors, but look at Mould drifting the car through the apex there. Such is the weight and the ferocity with which he's attacking the brakes, and as we ride on board here with the SRL driver absolutely going all in here to try and find his way into P3. He knows there's a huge points opportunity on the cars in this first race today, but right now the Affinity driver Zanatachi definitely also showing that his results last week were not a blip, they were a sign of things to come, and the Affinity driver digging in deep and enjoying the racing. Meanwhile in front of them P2 is Russell Fowler. That's a long time since we said that Russell Fowler's been inside the top 3 in the Next Gen Race Touring Car Championship, but it's great to see him up there, and can he hold on to that P2? Was Zanatachi in Mould slightly faster on the previous lap, but there's still a way to go in this race, and there's a sizable gap of 1.8 seconds to Fowler in front as they make the way in towards the Schumacher S. Or as they make the way uphill, and meanwhile we look a bit further down the order, and this is Sam Van Olst fighting with Nick Clemens. The Pro driver making his way out the inside of the Prime driver. Van Olst on the right of your picture, but tucks in behind Clemens as the iRacing Esports driver in the Elantra gets the move done there. And I think Van Olst right now just keen not to get too involved in this for the simple reason, whilst they are fighting for overall points, it's the Prime Class Championship which will be more important for our Pro-Am drivers in the fact they'll score points based on class position just as much as they'll score points based on overall position. But as they come in towards turn number 12, up the inside looks Andrew Harms in a new livery car, and I believe in fact making the switch to Honda Civic Type R for this round going forward, so therefore that will be a significant points deduction, but still deciding the Elantra did not work earlier on in the season and opting for the switch, and the Privateer here making his way up towards turn at number 14, and as he does so with what's Paul Scott behind, no change at the moment, but definitely trying to tease out a move versus Sam Van Olst. You can understand why, trying to get into the head of his rival, but Van Olst not having any of it as they make the way into turn number 16. But coming on through the right hander, and from them we look a little bit further down the order to Wojciech Swirydowicz, looking up the inside of Damon Queen, the Synergy Sim Racing driver, keeping the space open there as they make them out the final corner. Swirydowicz trying to fight his way through it, and now it's all about recovery drive. How many places can he gain back before this race is over? It would be very, very unexpected if he finished inside the top 12. I can tell you that Swirydowicz will give it everything. Can't put a man down at the end of the day, given the fact it all went wrong at the start before we went green light racing, but still Swirydowicz not letting it bring him any dismay, keeping his head down and pushing on, but as he tries to find his way past Mulqueen. Meanwhile, just in front, this is Joseph Doble fighting with Alex Everett. Everett looking around the outside, and just in front of his eyes at Doble, who is continuing to struggle with that 32.5 kilograms of success ballast, it would seem, as the Doble Sim Racing Velocita drivers both right now trying to keep the Crystal Autosport Honda at bay, but it's going to be Everett on the outside here coming into turn number 6. Joseph Doble getting his elbows out. It's going to get very close between them as they make the way and throw. Further contact. Everett sent to the grass there, rejoins. Joseph Doble gives them the space to rejoin, recognising that the contact was excessive. Respectful racing in the end, and as they make the way on down the hill, Joseph Doble switching back to the inside immediately, throwing everything at this to try and find a move, but right now just cannot find it, and Alex Everett holds on right now. The Prime holding off the Pro as they make the way in towards turn number 8, but from then we do look a little bit further up the order once again. In fact, we look back to the bottom end of the top 10, and we're right now, here is Jaroslav Sabula tucked in behind Mikey Doble. Mikey Doble has found his way into the top 10 with what was the rush to the pits for Wojciech Swirydowicz and also Wayne Douglas. That's raised a good number of the field by 2 places, and right now you can see up there it is Mikey Doble ahead of Sabula, followed by McCluskey in the fight for the final top 10 spot. They are aware for Daniel Martin by 2 seconds, but Daniel Martin is gradually losing out to these guys that might be reeled in before all is said and done. But then again, the RD Sim Sport driver will be very keen to make sure he doesn't fall into their clutches, because he'll be wanting to hold on to that championship lead overall come the end of today. But as they make the way into turn number 16, through the right hander they go, and well, you can see new fastest lap of the race from William Guthrie, your race leader, but now a new fastest lap even more from Dan Mould, who sets a 207.773. So as lap times are tumbling in this race as we move into the second half, and therefore it's going to get live lively before it's all over. Speaking of which, this is Ben Altria looking for a move up the inside of what is Reese Watt, the battle of P13 overall, but look at Matthew Addy coming in behind as well, and a bit of a bruised front end on that Veloster of Matthew Addy, but as they come up the hill in towards turn number 2, he's going to look on the inside, Altria around the outside of Reese Watt, but leaving himself exposed to his prime rival as they make their way towards turn number 3. Altria tucking as much as he can into the rear of Watt's Audi and trying to say to Addy, no you don't, but Addy saying yes I very much do, but meanwhile all this fighting brings them back together, and when I say them I'm referring to Altria, Addy and Meredith for his second place in the prime class as they make the way onwards towards turn number 6, and here is Alex Meredith. We jump on board with the RD Simsport drivers, he gets very close to the rear of Addy, and right now just as eager to make progress on Addy as Addy is on Altria. Well, goodness me, this right now could not be a close fight for P2 in the prime class if we tried, and as they make the way in towards turn number 8, we'll place your bets, ladies and gentlemen, which of these drivers is going to be winning at this battle for P2 come the end of it as they make their way down the brakes. Altria, they're looking around the outside of Reese Watt again, and as they come through the right hand, and Meredith right now was getting involved. Addy very close, but just not quite able to get alongside either. So it's a frustrating moment for Altria. He knows he's faster than Watt, but the problem is Watt's not going to give in for the simple reason Watt only scores points overall, and it's the top 15 places which score the overall points. And as they make their way out of Schumacher S, Addy having to go defensive here as Watt goes defensive versus Altria, albeit Meredith looking around the outside of Addy as they under the brakes, dances the car on the brakes. You can see that the rear brake bites kicking the car around, and as a result goes to the cutback out of 11, can't find it, goes to the cutback out of 12, but they all park on the apex there. Everybody just simply falling into a line, and Meredith losing all the momentum as he tries to accelerate his rival. Looking up the inside, it's going to be very close. He rides the curve into turn 13, up towards Vidal they go, and onto the brakes here, and he's got the inside line. Surely that's going to be enough, and Meredith will have to back it off. Indeed he does, but Addy goes a bit deep, but Meredith too soon on the power to get close and make a move, but he looks up the inside either way. It's going to be very close as they make the way for the right-hander, but he may just be able to get this done. But now this is where Addy will be able to come back for the simple reason he doesn't have weight to the car, and Meredith does, and as they make the way down towards turn number 1, that's going to be 24 kilograms of success bars, which the RD Simsport Elantra's got to try and push forward. Meanwhile Addy's got all the horsepower available to him, and as he heads onto the brakes, well, Meredith right now on the inside, he's not going to give in. Addy tries to turn in, has to leave the door open. Meanwhile Watt and Altria just ahead, and Altria getting ahead for the first time in their battle, but Addy digging in here as Meredith cannot find a way to complete the move, and as a result Matthew Addy holds on, but Ben Altria gets it done as well versus Reese Watt, goes deep into turn 3. As they come through the left into right here, Altria confirms the move and moves into P13 for full tilt B Motorsport overall. But from them, ladies and gentlemen, we need to cut back towards the front of the field because we've had some changes further afield, including what is the fight for P3 now getting closer and closer, as we can see Zenatachi, Mould and Vitford only what is the best part of 6/10 covering the trio as they make their way down towards the braking zone for turn number 8 onto the anchors they go. Adam Dillon 1.1 seconds behind and also trying to get into the mix here, but as we ride on board and look back from the rear of the number 14 car, well, right now the Veloster of Zenatachi under major pressure as we briefly lose and see Mould Green materialise from the ether. Hopefully that's not a sign of something to come in terms of a potential disconnect of what would be a engine blow up in real life in terms of motorsport, and therefore retirement as they make the way in towards turn number 11. Onto the brakes they go, and will Mould right now very close and thinking about one more place, one shot at a podium here in the first race of the day. But as they come through the right hand, Zenatachi will not be wanting to give in. He will absolutely dig in for this, and you can understand why, because he's only had a couple of podiums this season and he'd like to expand that number quite rapidly as they make the way down the back straight and up towards Vidal they go. But as they don't, Mould looking to the inside, trying to throw a bit of a dummy there, doesn't make it work in the end, and instead opts to stay behind. Zenatachi meanwhile unfazed entirely, but has a bit of a slow run coming out of turn number 15, has to go defensive into 16. Tucks the car in very tight to the apex and trying to say to Mould, look, if you want it, you're going to have to find a more inventive way to get it done. I've seen all these moves before, but we know that Dan Mould, a very crafty driver, he'll wait for the right opportunity. He can spend the best part of 4 to 5 laps just sizing up his rival. It might be the only place he goes for now between now and the end of the race, but he's going to go all in on the inside into turn number 1. He feels it's the right time to go for a lunge. Contact between the two of them, and Mould getting his elbows out, and that's going to put Zenatachi down a P4. Mould gains the place, but meanwhile Vitford getting close behind as well. The Brabham Esports driver now looking for an opportunity as well to make an ingress, but as they come down to turn number 3, well, Mould will look to try and break away, but as the car drifts there through the left-hand apex, you can see all 3 drivers together, the battle of the 3 Velosters as they come out of turn number 4, on towards 5 they go, and Mould right now not safe. He definitely won't be feeling safe when he does look in his rearview mirror and sees Zenatachi looking at once again into turn number 6, but it looks so things do calm down for a brief moment as they head down the hill now, winding their way through turn 6 and 7 in towards turn number 8, and whilst all this battling is going on, Daniel Downing battling hard with Daniel Martin, and Daniel Martin looking up the inside there into what is turn number 7. Side by side they go down the hill into the braking zone for turn number 8. Martin on the left of your picture, down on the right of your picture, and the prime leader letting this go by the looks of things now, when Mikey Doe will close behind, and Martin will want to clear down as soon as possible. He does indeed on the exit of 8, and now Mikey Doe will have the task of trying to clear the prime leader as they make the way into the Schumacher crest. Through left into right they go, but Martin right now making another key pass, and that will be some more points gained and a championship lead that could be retained come the end of the night as they make the way into the braking zone. You can see Doble very close to the back. There's contact, and Martin sent slightly sideways. I'm not sure there's initial contact between Doble and what was, I do believe, Downing. It may have been a small tap there, but it looks so all the drivers trying to safely rejoin him with the racing. But either way, contact between Martin and Downing. They've settled their differences. Front bumpers come off for Martin's car, but meanwhile being pushed on through there as he does have behind him Benjamin McCluskey giving him a nice little bump on the rear. It's going to be Jackson Sabula who looks around the outside to inside of Vidal versus what is Daniel Martin. In the end does get ahead just about, but now here comes McCluskey as well. It's all starting to unravel for Daniel Martin after it was looking so strong. And as they make the way out of turn number 6 and across the timeline they go onto the penultimate lap in this first race of the day. We're charging their way down towards turn number 1. It's going to be side by side, McCluskey on the left, meanwhile Martin on the right, behind them Downing just watching the prime leader. I think at this point may just want to back up the throttle slightly and just take what will be his class win. Ben Altrier only 4 seconds behind as they make the way onto the brakes. Well, coming on through, all 3 drivers go very deep, all fighting one another extremely hard and focusing more and more on fighting each other rather than making the braking zone. But Sabula does hold on for now as they come on through in towards turn number 3. Onto the brakes they go, and as they do in this long line of cars, you can see that McCluskey incredibly close as we ride on board and look back from the rear of the number 81 of Semper Racing. As they make the way out to turn at number 4 and onwards towards 5 and 6 they go. Sabula now able to stagnate the gap to a degree, but knowing that pressure is going to be on him for the best part of 1.5 laps remaining as they wind their way down through turns 6 and 7, and from them we have had a change of position further up the order as well, with Adam Delmont finding his way ahead of Fitford in the battle for P5, albeit that's happened off camera, and in fact we do have a quick replay as to what exactly happened. This was making their way down to turn number 7, and well, there was contact there between Delmont and Vitford, and in the end I think Vitford trying to park the car on the apex on the inside and Delmont giving him a bump on the rear, and as a result not too impressed I would imagine, but therefore the 2 drivers getting very elbows out versus one another, and well, I think some tempers may be flying a little bit red already, but still we return it to your racing action, and Delmont still holding ahead of Vitford right now, but I have to wait and see what happens come up the final lap of racing, whether the Bram Esports driver can find his way back into the mix. But meanwhile, as we return to your live pictures, fighting further down the order, including Isaac Doble versus Alex Everett for what is P9 in the Prime class or P24 overall. And right now, Everett trying to keep Isaac Doble behind him as it does look to the Prime Championship leader fighting hard for every place. And gaining some places since the start of the race, but definitely fighting uphill every corner. It does seem as though the 65 just not on the pace here, and as they make their way through turn 13 into 14 they charge, and right now Isaac Doble having to limit the damage as much as possible, but as they make their way up the hill into the braking zone we do look to Luke Jones, who does have the company of Wojciech Swirydowicz encroaching upon him very rapidly indeed. Swirydowicz already alongside into turn 16, and I think it's going to be a question of when, not if, that move's going to be made, and it's made precisely there. Swirydowicz moves to P22, but as they charged away onto the final lap, Jones trying to come back, and just in front Rees under pressure from the 2 primes of Andrew Holmes and Stephen Fry, with Fry losing out some places but still getting into the mix after that great qualifying session. P21 currently as they come on down to the braking zone, and from them Swirydowicz having to go defensive here versus Jones as Isaac Doble on the inside of Everett behind them. So right now getting very testing between all the drivers in the fight to just be outside of the top 20, but as they make their way up for the left hand at turn number 2 in the Mercedes Arena, you see Everett once again on the inside coming into 3. Isaac Doble having to go the long way round. That's not where you want to be in the Mercedes Arena. You want to be on the inside of 3. It sets up a much cleaner run into 4, unless the driver on the inside completely makes an error and you're on the outside. That's the only way you're going to be able to get a run into turn 4 on that inside line, and Isaac Doble having to relinquish the fight as they head in towards turn number 6 for the final time of asking in this race. But from them we do look back up to Andrew Holmes and Rees Watt here, the battle for what is P19 in the overall standings, and as they make their way on down the hill right now, Rees Watt on the right of your picture ahead by nose, in fact a whole body length ahead now, as the Audi driver driver manages to out-accelerate his rival. Into the braking zone they go. Luke Jones, meanwhile, Alex Everett looking around the outside, but Jones defends on the inside. Coming on through turn number 8, a bit of contact between the turn. It sends Everett wide, but Jones will hold the position for now as they make the way up there into the Schumacher S. Everett's going to commit to the inside. It's going to be very close between them. He's done it once already today as Alex Everett. He does it again, but it's contact between the turn. Everett turns sideways, catches the car in time, just about snakes it back onto the road. Daniel Queen takes evasive action, and my good lord, Alex Everett does not manage to stop the car in time, but he avoids the contact. But meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, from drama at the back of the field to the front of the field, it's been a quiet race to the end, but for William Guthrie, it's his first win of the season. The Full Tilt V Motorsport driver takes the checker flag by 4.5 seconds over Russell Fowler, who takes his first podium of the season ahead of Dan Mole P3, Paul Zanatachi P4 in the end ahead of Adam Delmont. Then it's going to be Luciano Vitford P6 ahead of Jamie Dorey, and then behind them Daniel Downing takes his first class win of the season for Goldwing Motorsports, P12 overall, ahead of Ben Altrier and Matthew Addy, who complete your prime podium, P13, P14 for the two of them. And it'll be Gavin Garner, P15, to complete the top 15 overall in the points paying positions in the overall championship. We've still got more drivers to come on through, including here what is the trio of Damon Mulqueen, just behind Luke Jones, but just ahead of Rafael Zarscht. And then we can see what will be a finish for Sam Van Olstip, P32 behind Alan McCain. That'll be P14 in the prime class. And for Jay Calais, it hasn't been a race one to remember. It's going to be P15 in the prime class, P33 overall in the privateer ahead of Peter Greenwood. And it'll be Mark Sykes, P35 there, coming across the line for Next Gen with Sam Cases, with the German flag painted over the top of the car in tribute to the German doubleheader, ahead of Lee Horn and Matthew Cheverton. Craig Tiddleston comes on through, P38 for FR20 Sim Racing. And then we do have a sizable 17-second gap to what will be Duncan Moraes, who makes his way out of the final corner. And as he comes on through, we do still have a couple more drivers to get to the finish line, including the Goldwing Motorsport driver, who takes his checker flag at P39 or P20 in the prime class. And then we will have what will be at the finishing positions for Sam Smith and Martin Shirley in due course, with Ian Manners, I do believe, also in this race, albeit a sizable number of laps down in P42, it must be said. But looking to Sam Smith as he makes his way out the final corner, P40 for the iRacing eSports driver as he crosses the line there to complete his 10 laps of racing. And then it will be Martin Shirley, who right now the RD Simsport driver, in a difficult first race today in the number 5 car, but still plenty more racing to come. But he's going to have to come from all the way down the order if he wants to get things done, as he makes his way out of the final corner to finish P41. But here he comes to cross line, ladies and gentlemen. And then your last finish of this race will be Ian Manners, who finishes P42. And we can see there your race winner, William Guthrie, coming around once again for the fans, the spectators and the pit crew. But Ian Manners finishes the finishing order for JW Motorsport, and William Guthrie, your class 1 overall winner there. The pro driver, a phenomenal drive. But meanwhile, we've got more drivers that make their way into the pits here. Everybody charging in right now after what was definitely a dramatic first race today here in Germany. The Nürburgring never disappoints, I can tell you that, particularly when we raced at the Sprint Strecke a couple of seasons ago, where it was very lively indeed. But the full Grand Prix layout, it's definitely brought things to life even more. But Ben Altrier, the second place prime finisher, P13. He'll be pleased with that, but he won't be pleased with the fact that Daniel Downing is eligible for a potential reverse grid pole if the number 12 is drawn from the bowl. But we're hoping that doesn't come, and therefore he can fight with his rival in to turn number 1 in the next race. In terms of other big mentions, Harley Bicknell finishing at P11 in the prime class, P29 for JW Motorsport overall, and that's going to be some good points on the board there for the 99 driver, and what was a great scrap between him and Alex Everett towards the end of the race. And we can also see a little bit further back a difficult start today for Craig Tillotson as he comes on through there, the FR20 Sim Racer driver, outside the points in the prime class in P19, I should say. But still 9, there's plenty of pace to be found, and he's got to take it 1 lap and 1 race at a time. But with all the drivers into the pits, or most of them into the pits, let's take a look back at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. And as we can see, after 10 laps racing, our first race of the day of the NXTCC Season 5, Round 5, here in Germany at the Nürburgring GP-Strecke, powered by IMB Racewear. William Guthrie taking the win for Full Tilt V Motorsport, his first win of the season, and after taking the lead, never looking back, and holding on by 4.5 seconds to the privateer of Russell Fowler there, and well, second place to him, ahead of SRL Next Gen's Dan Mould, third place, and with that completing your overall podium. Paul Zanatachi at P4 just missed out on the podium in the end, but the Affinity driver will still be happy with that top 5 finish. There's no doubt about it, ahead of Adam Delman for SRL NXTGEN, who got very close and comfortable with Luciano Vitford right towards the end of the race, and the Brahma Esports driver just missing out on the top 5 P6. Jamie Dory, P7 for NXTGEN at pink, taking it calm, taking a Turkington-esque approach, as he likes to say, ahead of Mikey Doe with the double sim racing drive, just finishing behind his 2-time championship rival. And then at Jaslav Sabula, P9 for Semper Racing, ahead of Benjamin McCluskey, NXTGEN pink drive completing your top 10. Daniel Martin doing well to fight his way to P11 to be best of the rest there for RD Simsport, ahead of your prime winner, P12 for Daniel Downing for Goldwing Motorsport, and he was closely followed by 2.5 seconds by Ben Altrier and Matthew Addy, with the Full Tilt B Motorsport and NXTGEN with Sam Case's drivers completing your prime podium of what is Downing, Altrier and Addy. Gavin Garner rounds off the top 15 for NXTGEN pink in a little bit of an anonymous race, but still more racing to come, there's no doubt about that. And then at P16 to Alex Meredith for RD Simsport, just missing out on the prime podium, but still a good drive there and some great points gained. Nick Clemens, Paul Scott, and then what was Reese 1, Andrew Holmes completing a top 20. Well, season best performance for Andrew Holmes there, the privateer, finishing inside the top 20 overall. And with that, what was a P6 in the prime class. Stephen Fry, P21, not able to hold on to what was the top 20 in, but also season best performance of P21 overall and P7 in the prime class for the P739 Motorsports drive. Congratulations to him. Wojciech Swirydowicz, despite the drive-through penalty for the launch start, we did see there a recovery to P22, a great recovery drive from the Semper Racing drive. He'll be looking for more of that in race number 2, ahead of Isaac Doble, Luke Jones and Damon Mulqueen. And special mention to Damon Mulqueen, the Synergy Sim Racing driver fights his way from P42 at the back of the grid to P25 and not set a qualifying lap. And then we can see Raffles Arsh, P26 ahead of Joseph Doble, with the top 30 being rounded up by Wayne Douglas, Harley Bicknell and Alex Everett. A fighting race for Alex Everett, and meanwhile a difficult race for Alan McCain P31, with Sam Van Ols P32 ahead of Jay Clay and Peter Greenwood. Mark Sykes ran off the top 35 ahead of Lee Horn, and then at Matthew Sheraton P37 for Aztec Race ahead of Craig Tillerston, and as we can see there, Duncan Rise at P39 ahead of Sam Smith, and then at Martin Shirley finishing at P41, the last drive to finish on the lead lap, with Ian Manners finishing P42 for JW Motorsport, 6 laps down, but in it to win it and staying in to the very end of the race. Well, that was race number 1, ladies and gentlemen, and what a race it was. We've still got plenty more racing to come in what will be race number 2 of the day, coming up very shortly. But of course, before we do start to step away and consider race number 2, there is the big question of the reverse grid draw for our second race of the day. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to bring you that reverse grid draw. Welcome to the commentary booth. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying the racing so far. And just to give you a reminder, in here is our lottery balls of 6 through to 12. And what I'm shortly going to do is close my eyes, shuffle the balls, and draw one out of the bowl. And that'll be our reverse grid position for the first race of the day. So without further ado, let's get to it. The shuffle's complete, and now we do the open my eyes there, so we're going to give them another shuffle. And now we're going to do the draw. And well, our first number of the day is going to be the number 9. So that means P9 will be your reverse grid pole. And well, Jaroslav Sabula takes another reverse grid pole position. We saw one earlier on in the season, if my memory does serve me correctly. So fortunate favours the Semper Racing driver. But will he be able to hold on for the win come the end of race number 2? We'll find out very shortly, ladies and gentlemen. But just as we do get ready to build up to race number 2, I think it's only fair that we do have a quick word from our title sponsor for this series, and that is IMB Racewear. So as we return to your pictures, ladies and gentlemen, and of course a replay of that race start, which did see none other than a full start there from what was our driver of Wojciech Swirydowicz and William Guthrie taking the lead as a result and never looking back. We do have a few moments before we make our way to race number 2, and therefore it'd be a good chance to catch up with some of our drivers. And I think we are going to try and get a word from our race winner for race number 1, William Guthrie, if he is available. We are just checking to see if he does have time for a quick word, and I believe he unfortunately may not be available, so therefore we are going to try and catch one of our other drivers instead. And in fact, I think we know who we might try and catch a word with, albeit I think he's actually not available either. And I was going to say Harley Bicknell for his great performance, so a couple of drivers stepping away and therefore taking a bit of a breather, completely understandable. But but we are going to see if we can get a word with William Guthrie, if he does have a quick word available. And in fact, he's just confirmed he is going to be available, so he is back, and he's going to be joining us very shortly in the interview room. So as he does come to us, and we'll wait for him. We're going to get some words from the man who led all the way from start to finish. And, well, he's just asking us, what does he need to do? He's not been in this interview position before. And we're just going to inform you, ladies and gentlemen. So apologies for going quiet very briefly. We're just going to give him a little bit of information. Joining me now is the man himself, William Guthrie. William, can you hear me? Where's...
Oh, hello.
Well, you're all coming through loud and clear. That's absolutely brilliant to have you joining us. And, well, congratulations on picking up the win in race number 1, and with it, your first win of the season. How does it feel to have taken your first overall win of the championship?
A bit weird, but what helped that race is I'm pretty sure Wojciech, I think his name is, jumped the start. The dude next to me, the dude starting on pole, he jumped the start, and I think all the other guys around me had ballast where I have none, so that really helped. I don't think I would have won that if your other man on pole got the had no if he didn't jump the start and if he didn't have any ballast, and if everybody else behind me didn't have ballast, I don't think I would have won that.
Well, it may have been a jump start for your rival, but at the same time still, once you took the lead, you had to hold on to it and not look back. And with 10 laps of racing around the Nürburgring circuit, it can be highly challenging. And it's not as though you haven't got slow competition behind you with the likes of Russell Fowler and Dan Mould keeping you honest.
I suppose, yeah, but then they did have, I'm going to guess I had a ton of ballast, because I don't think I should have won that on pure pace alone. I mean, I like this track and I clearly can go well at it, but I don't think I should have won that realistically. They are much better than I am.
Well, that's absolutely fair, and I think that's an honest assessment there, and I think everyone tuning in will definitely appreciate that. But the big question for yourself now is, of course, we have a top 9 reverse grid for our second race of the day. How are you feeling for what is race number 2? Can we expect a second win in a row?
No, I think I'm going to have like 9,000 litres of fuel on board as ballast, and I'll be starting 9th, which will be scary into the first corner. But I'll see what I can do, maybe pick a few off, but the ballast will completely destroy any pace I have or had. So it'll be interesting. Maybe I can pick a few off, but it'll be an interesting start to the race.
Well, that's absolutely fair, and even perhaps if you're not quite able to make it a second win in a row, we look forward to seeing plenty more from yourself. And I do have to ask, at Full Tilt v Motorsport, of course, there's been a number of firsts this season. Your teammate Ben picking up his first Prime win earlier on the season, and now your first overall win. I guess the mood down in the team paddock must be quite high at the moment.
It is. Ben's came on a long way since he dragged me in to do this championship, which I'm glad he did, because I've really enjoyed it. But Ben's came on a hell of a long way. I remember helping him with lap time and stuff. Now he's probably helping me with lap time more than I'm helping him. He's came on a long way, and he's got triples now as well, so he'll be in pro no time. Give it another half season and he'll be probably beating me.
Well, definitely a good assessment there of your teammate, and well done to Ben for his performances over the course of the season so far, and well done to yourself as well. With that, we'll leave you to it because race number 2 is coming up, but congratulations on the win, and we look forward to plenty more in the second race of the day.
Thank you. I'll just leave this channel now.
Yep, that's absolutely fine.
Alright, thanks.
So hearing that there from William Guthrie, his first time being interviewed in the NXTCC, so definitely getting himself acclimatised to the interview room. That's absolutely great to hear from him there, and putting his best foot forward there, the number 97 driver, and being very realistic and honest in his assessment of the first race of the day, which I think some would say, well, isn't that putting yourself down a little bit? But I would say for William, definitely there, taking things in his stride and recognising that there was quite a bit of a luck factor in terms of the fact his main rival, or the pole sitter, ended up with that full start and resulting in what was a drive-through penalty, but at the same time, nothing can deny that once he'd taken the lead and with his main rival on the front row out of the equation, he still had to deliver the laps. And with Russell Fowler having no success ballast in the car, Dan Mould definitely had some success ballast in the car, but still matching that William Guthrie's lap times, and therefore it was all down to the Hyundai Veloster driver of Full Tilt v Motorsport to pull away and lead the way to the checker flag. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to lead our way away. We're going to step away for approximately 3 to 4 minutes for the build-up to race number 2. We'll be be right back soon. Race number 2 is coming up. Don't go anywhere. You won't want to miss it. We are back then, ladies and gentlemen. Race number 2 is coming up very shortly. In fact, only 2.5 minutes away. We are here in Germany, of course, for what is round number 5 of the NXTCC Season 5, powered by IMB Racewear and brought to you on iRacing. And what a first race of the day. And we had a post-race interview with none other than your winner overall of William Guthrie, the Pro Class winner for Full Tilt B Motorsport, picking up his first win. An honest assessment and feeling as though race number 2, it may not be back-to-back wins given his P9 start, for we have a top 9 reverse grid, and as all our drivers get set, the one man who's going to be at the front of that field is none other than this man, Wojciech Swirydowicz, the Semper Racing driver, as he brings the car down to a standstill on the start-finish line, and I think that's going to be towed to the pits. He finds himself on pole once again for a reverse grid, and well, can he make it come true? Can he bring on home the win, or will he be denied, given he'll have some ferocious company alongside him? All that and more is coming up. Now, I did have the chance to catch up with Race Control in the build-up to race number 2, and this man, unfortunately, did pick up a 10-second post-race time penalty for track limits. Luke Jones for JW Motorsport, the 222 driver, so therefore his place will be altered by 10 seconds come the post-race standings today. So we just want to bring you up to down that, ladies and gentlemen. Otherwise, that's the only post-race time penalty that has been awarded by Race Control from race number 1, and well, he'll have been informed of it, the Briton, or if not, he will shortly be informed of it, and know that it's going to be further work in race number 2. Of course, his starting position for race number 2 will be carried over from race number 1 based on his iRacing finishing position, but then the post-round results will be updated for race number 1. That's how we work it here at NXTGEN as he makes his way up towards turn number 11, but there's still plenty more to come from the JW Motorsport driver and his teammates, there's no doubt about it. But as we say hello to Tampax Comfort in the YouTube chat, there says, well, I didn't expect that, thought I'd be last, and that is none other than William Guthrie, I do believe, and also to Duncan Rise, who apologised to everyone for the turn 1 crash and having the difficulties there. Well, no problem, Duncan, it's all about making mistakes, learning from them, and moving forward, and that's exactly what we like to see there in terms of you putting your hand up and whatnot. Indeed, no need to feel ashamed and whatnot. Things do happen, things do go wrong, but as our drivers all get themselves set now, we are only 20 seconds away from going green flag racing once again, and well, as our drivers get themselves all set and ready to go charging, who will be coming on through? Let's wait and find out, because race number 2 is coming up. Checker flag comes out on this practice session, and it is time for us to go green once again. But who will be at the front of the field come the end of it all? Well, the Nürburgring will explain all as we get set. So the drivers make their way to the grid for the second time today. This is how they're going to line up. It's Wojciech Swirydowicz who takes reverse grid pole position for Semper Racing, joined on the front row by Dobleson Racing's Mikey Doble. Jamie Dory starts P3 for NXTGEN Pink, joined on the second row of the grid by Bram Esports' Luciano Vitfoot, with Adam Delman and Paul Zenatachi for SRL NXTGEN and Affinity alongside each other on the third row. Dan Mould will be starting at P7 for SRL NXTGEN, joined on the fourth row by Russell Fowler, and then we do have William Guthrie for Full Tilt B Motorsport starting at P9. Benjamin McCluskey completes the top 10 on the fifth row for NXTGEN Pink, with Daniel Martin and Daniel Downing starting on your sixth row, and Daniel Downing in your Pro-Am pole sitter in the battle of the two Daniels there for Goldwing Motorsport. And then we see behind him Ben Altrier and Matthew Addy at the second place and third place prime drives just behind, with Gavin Garner and Alex Meredith completing your eighth row. Row number 9 goes to Nick Clemens and Paul Scott, with the top 20 being completed by Reese White and Andrew Holmes. And then we do have Stephen Fry and Wojciech Swirydowicz on row number 11 ahead of Isaac Doble and Luke Jones. On row number 13, we'll have to stop the run through there, ladies and gentlemen, because the lights are about to go out, and it is going to be none other than 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights, and it's lights out, and away we go as Wojciech Swirydowicz gets a brilliant start. Mikey Doble being left behind there, and as they make their way out towards turn number 1, when the second phase of the start, Sabula bogging down to agree. Meanwhile, look at Jamie Dory, sensational launch of the line in the Audi all the way into turn 1, looks around the outside, can't quite find it as they all make their way on through. All the drivers now getting very close. William Guthrie there, he had worries about turn number 1 being so far down the order, and those worries are confirmed as he's elbowed out. Meanwhile, Russell Fowler sent sideways off the road there at turn number 2. We'll have to get a replay of that shortly, but meanwhile, looking at the front of the field, Jamie Dory up the inside of Sabula into turn number 3, now going around the outside into 4, looks to be getting it done as they make their way out of the corner. Further behind, meanwhile, Alex Meredith there in a battle with Matthew Addy does get ahead of Addy as they make their way out of 4 into 5 and charge onwards now into the braking zone for turn number 6, 3 wide behind, and that does include Benjamin McCluskey and Ben Altrier getting into the mix there as Addy's dethroned 2 more places as they make their way into the braking zone here for turn number 7, and that's a move for the prime lead by Alex Meredith, goes up the inside, gets the move done. It's a move well made and well deserved by looks things, or is it? As meanwhile, Daniel Downing has something to say about it as they make their way in towards turn number 8, onto the brakes they go side by side. And Ben Altria looking up behind as well as he tries to sneak his way into the fight and make it a three-way fight for the lead. But as they make their way out to the right-hander and onwards towards turn number 8. Well, right now, turn number 9, I should say. Well, Meredith holds ahead of Downing, followed by Altria. Benjamin McCluskey now in the pursuit of the 3 prime drivers. As meanwhile, Adam Delt with an automated slowdown coming through the Schumacher S. That's going to cost him the best part of 4 places as he heads in towards turn number 11. Now at the back of the top 8 Pro Pack as they come on through the left into right, but charging on down. McCluskey meanwhile already making some further progress as one of the bigger gainers at the back of the field is Andrew Holmes, who's moved up to P19 around the outside of Paul Scott here in the battle for P5 in the prime class. And as they make the way on through and down, well, we do apologise for the audio being a little bit quiet there, ladies and gentlemen, with regards to the racing volume. We now have got that reinstated, and as they make the way up towards turn number 14, onto the brakes they go, and Andrew Holmes here makes his way through left into right, and as they weave the way and through, well, the drivers there looking at very close to wobbling off the circuit in terms of the cold tyres, of the cold brakes, and therefore really going to min-max the car in this current state. But as they come to the end of lap number 1, it is Jamie Doria who leads ahead of Jaroslav Stabula P2, Mikey Doble P3, followed by Luciano Vitford P4. Paul Zanatachi behind Dan Mould there, 5th place for Dan Mould, Zanatachi P6, and with that Daniel Martin up the inside there and getting the move done versus Zanatachi, so the Affinity drive drops down to P7, Daniel Martin up to P6, and it's Adam Dillon P8 ahead of Alex Meredith, P9 your prime leader right now, Daniel down in P10, and then Benjamin McCluskey best to rest P11 as they make the way down in towards turn number 3 once again on this second lap. And as they make the way out around, we do refresh our overlay to bring you back the track map in the top right corner of your screen, because that did decide to go missing for a brief moment, but we pulled it back. And as they head in towards turn number 6 now, where it could not be closer at the front of the field nor in the mid or towards the rear of the field. And speaking of battles further down the order, Ian Manners here looking to go on the offensive versus Russell Fowler after that open lap incident which saw Russell Fowler ejected out at turn number 2. As they come down to the braking zone, these two are going to work together now and decide to try and push onwards for higher positions. But the big question maybe you'll be asking is what exactly happened to Russell Fowler at the start of the race? Well, here's the replay to explain. We take a look at on board from Russell Fowler's perspective here as we got underway with the race start, launching his way off the line. Reasonable start from the British drivers. He made his way up to speed, finds himself behind Zanatachi in towards turn number 1, thinks about going to the inside but decides to put himself in the middle of the road instead. And as he makes his way onto the brakes here, gets very close, Constantino effect goes a bit deep as a result. Now exiting the corner, he will have drivers on his outside, also pressing his inside, onto the brakes he goes, and it's a nasty knock to Russell Fowler, and that sends him out on to the runoff area. But we take a look back from the exterior cameras, what exactly happened to the 61 driver then. And McCluskey on his right, meanwhile I believe he had Daniel Martin on his left, into the braking zone. 3 does not go into 2 at the best of times, and contact with McCluskey there, and Fowler pointing the wrong direction after the bump with the next gen racing driver. But meanwhile, we return to your live racing pictures, ladies and gentlemen, as we do. Well, we do look back to the race now on lap number 2, coming towards the end of it. And well, at the front of the field, we have had a change of position in the fact that Jamie Dory still leads, but Mikey Doble now into P2, and Jaroslav Stabula behind P3 as they make their way down to the braking zone for turn number 1 once again. And as they come on down, Luciano Vitford in P4 ahead of Daniel Martin, but otherwise things staying stationary inside that top 5 as they come in towards the left hand at turn number 2. As they charge their way on through the left and into the right, we've got more changes happening further afield. Oh, goodness me, and that's getting very close, as that was, I think, Stephen Fry involved in a multi-car lockup under braking into turn number 2. This is the battle for what is effectively P20. Paul Scott leading that battle. Stephen Fry down in P25 as they all make their way on through the double left of turns 2 into 3 and back to the right of 4. We're coming on through Lee Horn, fighting his way on through as well. Past what is Joseph Doble. Keeping in mind, of course, both of these drivers now with no weight in the car, and therefore having to give it everything as they make their way in towards turn number 6. Onto the brakes they go. Joseph Doble still there on what is the inside, but he'll find himself on the outside for turn number 7 and backs it off as they make their way through the right hand. And 9, there's no real way to leverage the position, but rolling out to the right hand and down towards turn number 8 they go. And as they do, Wayne Douglas here tucked into the toe of Joseph Doble, heading down into the braking zone, and in the end can't find a way through for next gen pink. Stephen Fry and Jay Calais battling for P8 in the prime class just behind. And right now the P739 Motorsports driver, I think we're looking more rearwards than forwards as time plays out as they make their way up the hill in towards the Schumacher S once again. but rising their way on through the left into right sequencing. Stephen Fry, they're absolutely pushing it to the limit and almost finding a bit of gravel for his spoils as he heads into the braking zone here. Hard on the brakes, he'll go, and right now Clay just trying to stay with him and get the Elantra driver to overcook those front tyres, take some life out of him, as Wayne Douglas meanwhile getting very impatient there behind Joseph Dole, trying to look for the move coming out of the right-hander of Bilstein on towards they go via the right-hander of turn number 13, but as they do, no change for now, and it does look as though Wayne Douglas close, but not quite able to find his way in. Meanwhile, Lee Horn able to go defensive there versus Joseph Doble, gets very close on the braking. We jump on board here with Joseph Doble riding over the top of the car, and as he makes way into the braking zone, up the inside he goes, but Wayne Douglas comes in blazing hot, and with that he sends Lee Horn himself sideways. Joseph Doble survives, or Jay Clay gets caught up in the mix as well, and my goodness, that was completely out of left field with regards to what happened. As they make the way on through right now, it's going to be 3, almost 4 wide as they make their way down the start, finish straight in the fight for what is P23. Stephen Fry leading this battle as they make the way onto the brakes, coming hard onto the anchors now. 4 wide at the 8, 5 wide at the apex. My goodness, Stephen Fry literally driving the car off the road there. I think 9, he doesn't want to be involved in any drama, but Jay Clay sneaks on through as a result. Wayne Douglas, Lee Horn, Russell Fallon, Ian Mans all pile on through, and Stephen Fry a victim of the incident there, as was Jay Clay. So all of them being heavily affected. Wayne Douglas struggling with the car right now. Goodness me, definitely one of those moments which we're not going to forget anytime soon here in Germany. But Stephen Fry right now bringing it back together as Wayne Douglas limping along. But from then we look back up towards the front of the field, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not forget there's a battle inside the top 5, and this is Vitford looking around the outside of Daniel Martin as they come down in towards turn number 8. The number 60 driver right now trying to make the move count, but he can't quite do it as Daniel Martin makes the place, and as they head in towards turn number 8, turn number 9 now going to Schumacher S. But looking around the outside to inside, we've seen a number of drivers try this so far today, and many have made it work, but not Vitford right now. He has to back off there as they make the way on towards turn number 10. You can see Dan Mould itching for a move behind as he rides close to the rear bumper his rival, but as they ride nose to tail coming in towards turn number 12. Vitford looks up the inside, it looks like it might be a bit of a premature move, and it gives Dan Mould all the confidence to look around the outside. We can see that Vitford really right now pushing hard, trying to find a way on through after finding himself on the receiving end of a number of bumps and scrapes and a bit of a rivalry with Adam Denman in the first race of the day, and now another SRL Next Gen driver has taken place in the second race of the day, that being Dan Mould. But as they make the way on through Vidal, Daniel Martin gluing himself to that P4 position as they make the way on through Vidal onto the brakes. They go, Vitford looks up the inside, switches it back. This is Bold, as we are behind them, being Bold as well as Adam Delman versus Anatachi. So SRL Next Gen are all trying to make their way up through the field right now, but they're finding stiff competition as they make their way across the timeline to the midway point of this race. Across the line, then they go as Anatachi holding off Delman, but meanwhile in front, Daniel Martin still having to dig in. Demo looking around the outside this time. Delman in the rear of the picture, also looking for the move as they make their way through the corner up towards turn number 2. They ascend, and as they do, the leaders as well starting to get close. The top 3 who are not fighting too hard. I think they want to steer clear from all this battling, but Daniel Martin on the inside through 2, in towards 3 he goes. With that on the outside, we should say, at both corners. Meanwhile, Dan Mould on the inside. Mould holding close as he makes way through 3, but Martin's still there on the inside of 4. Daniel Martin making the switchback work there, but look at this. Vitford's now going to make it 3 wide as they make the way for the kick of 5. Surely not. It's going to get very close. Keep it clean, boys. We love to see it as they make the way towards turn number 6, and all the way it's going to be contact there between what's Martin and Vitford pushed wide, and as a result rejoins, but now has Wojciech Swirydowicz looking around the outside there, and the bad luck continues to strike the number 60 driver from Brabham Esports. He just can't get a break when he's in these close battles. He always seems to be one scoop to the side today as he makes his way down the hill into the braking zone for turn number 8. I'll tell you one thing, he's got a very cool temper, the number 60 driver. I can imagine right now he may be feeling quite frustrated, but not letting it show. And as they make their way up towards turn number 9, well, Alex Meredith in amongst all of this, the RD Simsport driver who's leading the prime class, now trying to fight for a top 10 overall. Albeit we need to look to the front of the field here because we've got a change of lead potentially coming with Jeremy Dory under increasing pressure and Mikey Doble, the two-time champions of the NXTCC fighting hard. Dory meanwhile on the outside of turn number 12 as Doble looks to the inside. That's going to put Dory wide. It brings Sabula in, but Sabula backs off there, not wanting to fight too hard as we ride on board with the Doble Sim Racing driver, looking back from the rear of the leading Veloster as meanwhile Dory looking for it, gets his nose in, trying to squeeze it to Vidal, but backs out in the end. Dory thinking about it there, putting all the risks on the line, but deciding not to risk it completely, because that could have definitely been far worse aware than what it could have been if he'd been able to make the move stick, and as they make the way out of turn number 16. Well, right now Mikey Doe leads this race, but for how long before Jamie Dory comes back to make another move as they charge their way down towards turn number 1. Onto lap 6 they go. Into the second half of the race they traverse, and as they make the way down, Doe will defends the inside wall. Dory looks the inside, back to the outside, throws the dummy as they make the way into the braking zone. Sabula meanwhile from behind just watching, waiting, trying to seize an opportunity as the Semper Racing driver, knowing that P3 is going to be huge points in itself, but a win could be even more. And as they make the way on through the Mercedes AMG arena, Dory looking to the inside, double defence once again. You can see Sabula going as wide as he can to cut back off the corner, give himself every opportunity. But with this fighting, it means that Dan Mould is inching closer, so is Daniel Martin, so is Anataji, so is Swirydowicz. They're all getting closer right now. We could have an 8-car fight for the win of this race if things carry on as they are, because right now the leaders are costing each other time, and Mould is only 1.1 seconds off. But as they make the way on through the left hand of turn number 6 into 7, everybody right now absolutely itching for the win here. And meanwhile, looking further back, glowing red hot with the carbon ceramic discs on the back of that car, it's Daniel Dowling, the Goldwing Motorsport driver. He's currently P2 in the prime class, and he's P11 overall, chasing after Alex Meredith. You see at the bottom of your camera screen there, and right now the gap between the two of them only what is 1 second, if that. And Dowling has his man in his sights and will be looking to try and pick up another win in the prime class here, albeit losing out in the early stage of this race, but he's still got an opportunity to try and recover it as they make the way on through the left into right of the Schumacher S. But as they come on through and up the rise they go, in towards the next braking zones. Anatachi under pressure from Swirydowicz. Swirydowicz up the inside. Anatachi turns in to what is Raven Dole, but he can't quite find a defence. And as they make their way into the Bilstein curve, Delmont looks up the inside there. The SO Next Gen driver absolutely going full attack with the Honda Civic tyre bomb right now, trying to use those brakes and the tyre advantage the car has versus the Veloster. But right now, Anatachi saying, no, the buck stops here. You're not coming through. And as they make their way in towards Vidal, line astern they go once again. But I think this is going to be the calm before the proverbial storm, because right now I can tell you the top 14 are separated by only 6 seconds. It's the closest we've seen at a midpoint of a race so far this season, to be this close, and practically the whole top 15 within 6 seconds of a window, which just goes to show you how hard everybody's racing right now. Oh, looking for major results here. At the back of this pack is Matthew Addy, P14. He's third place prime. He's got a way to go to chase down Daniel Dan and Alex Meredith, but he'd love to be here just to see what other points he can gain in the overall, and perhaps even sneak a place of his rivals should they be involved in an altercation or fall down the order towards the very end. But Addy right now has just got to play the patience game and wait and see what comes to him. Indeed, it's hard to do as a driver. You want to push, you want to keep chasing places down, but perhaps caution is going to be the better part here in terms of just being smart and waiting for when it potentially goes wrong for the drivers in front. You can never predict what happens. He just needs to be right there to seize on the opportunity when it does come, as he right now rides the rear end of Nick Clemens as they make the way out of the arena section. But as they do so, making the way on through, we meanwhile look back to P23 driver Lee Horn, the last of the eligible reverse grid positions for the final race of the day. He's chasing after Jay Calais, and well, right now these two running nose to tail, and we're both thinking about whether it could be them that's drawn out a lottery bowl come the end of this second race of the day, and looking to push even more places just in case. Understandably so, you don't want to be all the way down the order. You want to be as high up as possible to guarantee you are in that reverse grid, because that's where the spoils will be. But as they make their way down towards the braking zone for turn number 8, Lee Horn looking to the inside, Calais not defending, feeling confident he's got the measure of his rival, and making the way on through it. Meanwhile, Mark Sykes getting closer, and right now not wanting to let what is their Lee Horn stand in his way, and Jay Calais I think will want Lee Horn right there as they make their way up towards the Schumacher S. But as they do, we have had a change of P2 with Justin Spieler making the place on Jamie Dory, and here's a replay to explain exactly what happened. Was the run out of the Schumacher S, and Dory, I believe, with a, well, not with a slowdown, just a poor run off the corner, and Sevilla nailing the run through the Schumacher S and taking the second place on the inside into the Ravendoll corner and making it count into Bilstein. Well, as they make the way on through, we return to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen. Still looking back to the battle for what is P22 between none other than Jay Calais, Lee Horn and Mark Sykes, with Russell Fowler inching closer. And in fact, we do now look a little bit further behind, and we see Stephen Fry fighting with Sam Smith here on these live pictures. This is for P10 in the Prime class, with Stephen Fry, of course, coming off one of the worst of the drivers after that major incident at turn 16 that was triggered off by the attempted move by Wayne Douglas we saw earlier on. Well, I think that will be under the viewership of the stewards after today's racing. But But Fry right now trying to hunt down Sam Smith, but with a wounded front end of the car, that's not going to be helping his aspirations. He's going to be losing the best part of 2 to 3 miles now on the longest straights, and that will be holding him back. There's no question about it. But meanwhile, battling for what is P5 in the Pro-Am class and also P19 overall, it's Paul Scott versus Ben Altria, as Altria falling out of favour of the top 3, but contact with Scott, that's going to lead to Andrew Holmes. He picks up 1, he picks up 2, and it's going to be 2 places for Andrew Holmes, seizing the day. And as they make the way in towards turn number 3, goes a bit deep there as he rides his luck on through the left into right-hander. We look back from the rear of the Honda Civic Type R Privateer as he powers his way out of turn number 4. Paul Scott keeping Altria behind, but that's not the way he expected it to go, as meanwhile it's Altria and Calais and Horn fight each other behind. You see they're just in the rear of the picture, all getting very close and personal here as Holmes goes deep into turn number 7, but carries the speed out the corner, or does he? In fact, it's the brief run to the gravel as they make the way down, and well, now you can see the difference here, the power of the Audi versus the Honda, whereby Paul Scott very close, but I think with some damage to the Audi, not quite able to make it count. Meanwhile, behind Jay Calais being passed by Lee Horn, still Mark Sykes behind him as the 89 driver doesn't want to let the 666 Audi through. As they make the way up the hill here, we must look from them back up to inside the top 10, ladies and gentlemen, because things now are getting very testy for what is Adam Delman versus Alex Meredith, the prime leader. He's ahead of Luciano Vitford, but he's looking for more as he goes his way up towards Adam Delman. The battle for P8 continues with also Paul Zenatachi only with a further place ahead, so all fighting hard for position here of these drivers. But the big question is who's going to come home with that P7 in the end. As you can see, Meredith going defensive there versus Vitford. That's going to compromise his line into the corner, and with Daniel Downing not too far behind, the Goldwing Motorsport driver, I think feeling confident he can get into the mix. But meanwhile, Dowman on the inside of Zenatachi coming on through turn number 16. Through the right hander they go, and as they do, and down towards turn number 1 they charge. Side by side they roar now as they head in towards the braking zone. And who is going to be the one who comes out on top here? That's the big question as they make their way into the braking zone. Well, I think it is going to be Zenatachi who gets a nose ahead, but Dowman's got the inside, plus he's got the stronger brakes of the two of them. Hard on the anchors they go through the right hander, and Will Zenatachi still there, but Delman does get a nose ahead. In towards turn number 2 they go, and he makes it count, and Adam Delman does take P7 for now at least as they come on through it. Meanwhile, Daniel Martin versus Dan Mould. This is the battle for P4. Wojciech Swirydowicz right behind. It's a three-way fight for P4 with the leaders just in front. Only 1.5 laps to go by the time they get down to the lowest point of the circuit, and Martin and Mould still side by side as they come in towards turn number 6. Martin rides the curb, contact there with Mould. Mould knows what to do, backs off, but now brings himself back into contention to turn number 7, rubbing from door to door. The paintwork being traded between the two. I'm not surprised there's a massive pink streak down the side of the SRL Next Gen car. Meanwhile, look at Swirydowicz on the left of your picture, makes it 3 wide. There's contact between Mould and Swirydowicz. They survive it as they come down. There's further contact between Mould and Martin. Martin's turned sideways. Swirydowicz up the inside here of Mould as a result, and as they make the way out of turn number 8, well, Martin recovers. It's not all over for him, but he's out of this battle for now. Swirydowicz looking around the outside into Schumacher-esque. Mould absolutely trying to hook himself to the position, but as they come through turn number 9 and up the hill through 10, it looks like Swirydowicz has got ahead. Mould tucks in. Swirydowicz covers the middle of the road now as they head onto the brakes, up to P4 for the Semper Racing driver. It was a disaster in race number 1 with the jump start, but in race number 2, he's fought his way all the way through to P4. Can he go any further with one more lap to go after this one? Well, he'd have to cut off what would be 1.4 seconds to be able to try and find the move and make it count, but still miracles happened in the NXTCC in the past. But right now Swirydowicz already making magic happen here as Dan Mould right behind him as they make their way in towards turn number 14. Onto the brakes they go, and the 80 driver here does finalise the move. Mould not able to come back, but as they make their way in towards turn number 16, one more lap to go, and it is Mikey Doble who leads at the front of the field. Jazz Sabula P2, Jamie Dory P3. Who out of these three will bring on home the win come the end of it? Well, only one more lap will tell, as that white flag definitely does wave. And as they make their way down towards the braking zone, you would argue that Doble will be the favourite now. Half a second between him and Sabula, and looking to be in control of this race. But then again, it only takes one small mistake in order to upset the Apple car. And well, Luciano Vitford here, knowing that he needs to fight his way past Adam Delman on this final lap if he wants that P7. That P7. As they come through turn number 2, switching back there, it's number 60 driver riding hard on the rear of the Honda Civic Type R driver, but Delman defending as hard and fast as his rival tries to make the move here. Understandable, given the fact that these two they can't really get into the top 6, but meanwhile there's drama further behind, and that I believe was Daniel Downing losing his front bumper coming on through turn number 3. Not quite sure who the contact was with, but Downing taking a nasty knock to the front of the car, and that releases Matthew Addy up into P12, looking on through here versus Gavin Gardner trying to fend off Gavin Gardner. In fact, as next gen Sam Casey's drive moves into P2 in the prime class, Alex Meredith is still clear of all this, but there's the drama, and Matthew Addy gaining another place in class before the close of this race. But as they make the way on down, we're not going to be able to get a replay of what's happened there, ladies and gentlemen, given this is the final lap and we haven't got long left. But meanwhile, a bit further afield, we see Stephen Fry battling with Russell Fowler here. The two wounded cars, both missing pieces on the front end. Well, Stephen Fry a bit more pronounced compared to his peer, but making the move there into, well, it's P27 versus Russell Fowler as they come down into turn number 8. And then further behind, Isaac Doe will continue to struggle in this race as he fights there with a bonnet that's hanging loose on the front end of what is none other, and Luke Jones's car. You can see the bonnet there levitating on the front, but Isaac Doe making at the move count. The double sim racing drive gaining what is P14 in the prime class, so some points to be retrieved. But meanwhile, looking from one Doe brother towards the back of the field to one very much at the front of the field, with Jasper Spieler currently 5 attempts behind, and therefore I don't think it's going to have enough unless Mikey Doe makes an error. But there's one thing you can count on Mikey Doe: he doesn't make errors, and as he makes his way out the final corner, the checker flag is going to wave, and come the end of race number 2, it's the overall win for Mikey Doe from Double Sim Racing ahead of Jaroslav Sabula P2, Jamie Dory P3 ahead of Wojciech Swirydowicz, Daniel Martin P5 ahead of Dan Mould, and then Adam Delman, Luciano Vitford, Paul Zanatachi, and Alex Meredith completes your top 10 and takes the prime win there for RD Sim Sport ahead of Benjamin McCluskey. Matthew Addy second place prime class P12 ahead of Gavin Gardner, Nick Clemens, and Daniel Downing will be frustrated with how that race ended because that P2 in the prime class has become a P3, but still on reflection he's on the podium, a P15 overall as well. Great points accrued for the Goldwing Motorsport driver, and I think he'll look forward to race at number 3 now, as we do see Luke Jones coming on through here, P34, and then we do have the rest part of 7 seconds before Harley Bicknell crosses the line at what will be P35 for JW Motorsport ahead of Craig Tillerston, who comes on through P17 in the prime class, and then it will be Wayne Douglas, who after that knock early on in the race will in the end relinquishing his positions and fall into a P37 finish ahead of Peter Greenwood. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we do have 2 more finishes to come. They're a little bit further back. It will be P39 in due course for Matthew Sheraton for Aztec Racing, and Duncan at Moraes will be your last finish of P40. We do have to report there were 2 retirements in this race. A retirement early on for Raffles Zarsht and also for William Guthrie, the race 1 winner, commenting in the YouTube chat, having to pull out the race due to his monitor having issues, so he's had to restart his PC, and I hope it doesn't happen again in what is race number 3 that's coming up. But Matthew Sheraton taking at P39 there, and then Duncan Moraes taking the final finishing position of the 40 car Romanian field, P40 there for the Goldwing Motorsport driver. But goodness me, what a second race of the day, and the intensity could not have been higher, as we do see there Mikey Doe doing a little bit of manoeuvring and showing off in front of rival but good friend Jamie Dory. But your winner in this second race of the day, having to earn it the hard way, fighting his way through, but in the end battling his way to victory. And Jaroslav Sabula, a second place, another great podium there for the Semper Racing driver. He may not have picked up his first win of the season so far, but the Polishman doing very well to bring home overall podiums and some great points for himself and the team. And Jamie Dory, the 3rd place finisher there in what was a calm, cool and collected race for Next Gen Pink, but also Alex Meredith returning to the top step after a brief hiatus from the overall podium of the prime class, and in the 44 driver in the RD Sim Sport Elantra making it count. And well, he didn't need to be asked twice to try and go for the move for the lead early on in the race. As all drivers coming to the pits, some other special mentions to include Andrew Holmes, a P19 overall, but also with that a P5 in the prime class, his best result of the season so far, and fending off what was Lee Horn just behind. Alex Everett as well, picking up a P4 in the class, and was his best result of the season so far, P18 overall for Crest Autosports. So the fortunes continue to come the way of the 29 driver. So some great results there further down the field in the prime class, no doubt about it. And we've still got 1 more race to come, ladies and gentlemen. Well, as all the drivers make their way into the pits, let's take a look through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. So after another 10 laps of racing here in Germany at the Nürburgring circuit, Mikey Doe taking the win there for Double Sim Racing by half a second over Semper Racing's Jaroslav Sabula, and Jamie Dory wrapping up the overall podium there for Next Gen Pink, a further half a second behind. Congratulations to our podium finishers ahead of Wojciech Swirydowicz, 4th place there for the Semper Racing driver, and the recovery after the difficulties of race number 1 is complete, finishing P4 there and well and truly inside some major points. RD Simsports Daniel Martin at P5 and fighting hard for a top 5 finish. He'll be happy with that, albeit I think he'll be a little bit frustrated the podium didn't come his way, but still holding off Dan Moulterline there, the SRL Next Gen driver, making it P6, P7 with his teammate Adam Delmont, and then Luciano Vitford P8 for Bradman Esports in another race where the elbows came out for the number 60 driver, but they weren't favourable towards him. And meanwhile, behind him, Paul Zenatachi at P9 for Affinity, ahead of Pro-Am P10 finisher overall, RD Simsports Alex Meredith, who is also your Pro-Am winner for this race. Meanwhile, P11 Best Race, Benjamin McCluskey for Next Gen Pink, ahead of 2nd place Pro-Am finisher P12 overall, Next Gen with Sam Cases, Matthew Addy. And then between Matthew Addy and the 3rd place finisher of the Pro-Am class was Gavin Gardner and Nick Clemens for Next Gen Pink and iRacing Esports respectively, with Daniel Downing taking the final Pro-Am podium finishing position at P15 overall. Congratulations to the Goldwing Motorsport driver, picking up also some overall points. Then just outside the overall top 15, Reswap P16 ahead of Joseph Doble, with your top 20 being completed by Alex Everett, Andrew Holmes and Lee Horn, with both Everett and Holmes bringing home season best finishes. And then Ben Altria P21 for Full Tilt B Motorsport in a race that went downhill fast, but he did well to stem the flow of places lost and finish in that P21 position. Next Gen with Sam Cases, Mark Sykes P22 ahead of Ian Manners, with JW Motorsport taking the final eligible reverse grid position for the final race of the day. And then Jay Clay P24, the privateer, just ahead of Sam Smith, with Stephen Fry outside the top 25 P26, ahead of Sam Van Olst and Russell Fowler. And to complete the top 30, Martin Shelley and Damon Mulqueen. Alan McCain P31 for iRacing Esports ahead of Isaac Doble, with Luke Jones P33 ahead of Harley Bicknell. Then Creators then completing your top 35. Wayne Douglas P36 ahead of Peter Greenwood. And then to wrap up the top 40, what was Paul Scott, Matthew Sheraton and Duncan Moraes, with then Duncan Moraes being your last lead lap finisher, in fact your last finisher of this race. And we did have the 2 retirements of what was William Guthrie for Full Tilt B Motorsport with technical issues that beset him midway through the race and only completing what was 4 laps racing, and Rafael Zarstu was not able to complete the opening lap of the race. Major technical issues for the Semper Racing driver. We do hope to see him back on the grid for our final race of the day. So that was race number 2, ladies and gentlemen, and we've got one more race to come. There's no doubt about it. Race number 3 is coming up shortly, and of course we have that big question of the reverse grid draw for our final race of the day. Well, you know what that means. It's time to cut to the commentary booth once again and do our final draw of the day. And well, what a fantastic race number 2. The Lottery Bowl is here once again, and to remind you, this time around we draw 2 numbers out of the bowl. And without further ado, let's get to it. So that's the first shuffle, and we take our first ball, and it is going to be what will be the number 6. So it is going to be one of our smaller reverse grids today for our final race, and then we'll add to it another number, and here we go with our second shuffle and draw. Okay, and that's the second ball drawn, and it is going to be the number 7. So it's the smallest possible reverse grid for our second race of, not our second, our final race of the day, our 3rd race with that. So it's going to be a top 13 reverse grid, and that means Gavin Gardner, who's been beset with pace difficulties all day today, finds himself on pole position for the final race in round number 5. Well, could it be some magic for Next Gen Racing Pink, or will we see some of our drivers who've been leading on pace, they fight their way through? All that and more is to come, ladies and gentlemen, and we are going to take a brief break of approximately 5 to 6 minutes before we return for the build-up to race number 3. But just before we do step away, of course, a quick word from our sponsor, IMB Racewear, our title sponsor for this series, and we'll see you very shortly. And we are back one more time tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Race number 3 is coming up shortly in round number 5 of the NXTCC, powered by IMB Racewear, brought to you on iRacing for season 5 of the Touring Car Racing Series that keeps everyone on their toes and asking the question, who is the master or mistress of the front engine, front wheel drive Touring Car Racing Class car? Another 10 laps are upcoming. And what a phenomenal race number 2 we got to see. Plenty of batting up and down the field, but perhaps one of the biggest scores of race number 2 was achieved by this man, Wojciech Swirydowicz, who fought his way through to what was in the end a top 5 finish after what was the disappointment and the heartbreak of race number 1 with that full start, and in the end fight his way all the way through down towards the bottom end of the top 30 in race number 1 and fight his way to the bottom echelons of the top 20 and then cut his way through the field in the second race of the day. Well, of course, now we have a top 13 reverse grid, the smallest possible number that can be drawn for our final race, and well, it's going to be interesting to see where Swirydowicz, with quite a bit of weight in the car, can make his way back into the top 5 once again and really turn around what's been a difficult day, well, and make sure those points come his way, or where we might see some other bigger names up there as well. But meanwhile, another man who'll be starting from the back of the field, now he's got it all to do for P41, William Guthrie for Full Tilt B Motorsport, with a technical issue assailing him in the early stages of race number 2, and after his first win of the season in race number 1, definitely mixed fortunes there, and he won't want those fortunes to go against him any further. Now, whilst we are waiting and to potentially get ready to go racing at once more. In fact, we will be going racing once again. I'm not sure what I was saying potentially, but we are going to be looking to try and grab a quick word with one or two of our drivers, ladies and gentlemen, whilst we do get ready to go one last time. And well, we will see if we can get a quick word with one or two drivers out on the circuit as we just try to find some drivers who are available. And we've got patch throughs to them from the paddock. And well, right now, I do believe that a lot of our drivers are still in the pits in terms of those who are available with regards to voice comms. We might be able to see and get a word with this man for Affinity. Paul's in the touch. He's definitely been enjoying quite a lot of the batting today. There's no doubt about it. But in fact, I don't think we're going to be able to catch a word from him with 2 minutes to go. We'd love to hear from him at some points. He's definitely been one of the rising stars of the season. There's no doubt about it. But he makes his way on through and up towards turns 14 and 15. Well, seeing him go from left into right. And I think we are going to try and catch a quick word with one of the drivers a bit further down the order of what is Harley Bicknell, as I believe he's currently in the pit lane, but we're going to try and grab a quick word with him all the same. It's only fair. And well, as we do try and get a patch through to him from down in the pit lane, just a quick 60-second chat if we can. And give us a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen, as I think we do now get a patch through to Harley Bicknell. Harley, are you there? And have you got a quick 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Harley, just wanted to check in with yourself, given the fact it's always good to hear from drivers up and down the field. We've been seeing some good racing for yourself today at this Nürburgring circuit. How have you been finding it?
Yeah, race 1 was all right. I'm quite new, so just trying to survive really at the minute. But yeah, race 1 was good. Had reasonable pace and managed to stay out of trouble. Race 2, not so much. Got steering damage, so it was a bit difficult. But yeah, having fun, learning a lot on the way.
That's definitely what it's all about. And for race number 3, what can we expect from yourself?
The plan is to survive turn 1 and then see what happens afterwards. But yeah, just top 30 is my sort of target every race at the minute. So that'd be nice.
Well, it's a good aspiration to have to survive turn 1, and it's a good target to have set yourself for each and every race. We'll leave you to it. Good luck, and we'll see you at the checkered flag.
Thanks so much. Cheers.
So hearing that there from Harley Bicknell for what is JW Motorsport, currently in the pit lane getting set and talking to his engineers, or we briefly called him there just at the opportune moment, and we can see a fellow JW Motorsport car free swap. But they're catching up with a driver who's not necessarily been up in the spotlight all the time, but enjoying some great batting, particularly in race number 1. And it's always good to hear from drivers who are still learning their craft and saying about the fact every race targeting at the top 30. Well, can he make that happen? And can one of our drivers from JW Motorsport perhaps take the win in this race? Well, it's time to head to the grid. It's race number 3, and this is how they'll line up for our final race of the day. where it's going to be Gavin Garner, who starts on pole position for Next Gen Pink with the reverse grid, joined on the front row by Matthew Addy, who is your Pro-Am pole sitter for Next Gen with Sam Cases. It's a Next Gen lockout on the front row, and it continues with Next Gen Pink driver Benjamin McCluskey P3, joined on the second row by RD Simsports Alex Meredith starting P4. On row number 3, we have Paul Zanatachi for Affinity, joined by Bram Esports' Luciano Vitford, with Adam Delmont starting P7 for SRL Next Gen, and on the fourth row, joined by his teammate Dan Mould. Completing the top 10, it's Daniel Martin for RD Simsport and Wojciech Swirydowicz for Semper Racing, with Jamie Dory starting P11 best of the rest, and on the 6th row, joined by Jaroslav Sabula. And then behind them on the 7th row, Mikey Doble and Nick Clibbins, with Mikey Doble completing your reverse grid order there. And then Daniel Dannon and Reese Watt on row at number 8, ahead of Joe Zido and Alex Everett. And your top 20 is completed by Andrew Holmes and Lee Horn. Ben Altria starts P21 ahead of Mark Sykes, with Ian Maz and Jay Clay on row number 12. But we're going to have to stop there, ladies and gentlemen. The grid is set and the lights are going on. And it is going to be 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for the final race of the day as Gavin Garner looks to get a blazing start in the Audi. He does exactly that as they charge their way down towards turn number 1. And as they head on down, Matthew Addy-Muir going defensive versus McCluskey. Onto the brakes they go. Alex Meredith up the inside. They're going in tight, trying to keep themselves safe and defensive as Paul Zanatachi goes a bit deep and manages to bring back the inside as they make the way through. All the drives now Constantine in the way into the AMG arena. We've got a car pointing the wrong way. That is Jay Calais, who's had it go very, very wrong at the start of the race and trying to recover it back together. Harley Bicknell right in the fight there with Luke Jones, his teammate, as they make the way through. Finds himself on the outside there as Mean, while William Guthrie cuts his way up the inside. They come through turn number 3 and cut back towards the front of the field as they exit the infield section. Alex Meredith still side by side with Benjamin McCluskey as the top 2 already started to break away. Meredith not wanting to lose the sight of an opportunity to hunt after Matthew Addy, but I think here he's got to play the longer term game, which is simply let McCluskey go and focus on letting the pros bring Addy to him. I mean, if he fights too much this early on, he's going to give Addy every opportunity to run off into the distance and only cause some tempers to fray behind as they make the way down towards turn number 8. Onto the brakes they go. Everybody coming in hot now for the first time into the turn 8 hairpin, one of the heaviest braking zones of the circuit. Daniel Martin there looking up the inside versus Dan Mould, trying to gain the position for West P8. And as they make the way up the rise here in to the Schumacher S, where it's going to be Daniel Martin who does get ahead in the end, tucked to my Dan Delmont as they weave the way on through, making the way through the right-hander at turn number 10. In towards 11 they go, and as they make the way up, Zanatachi defending versus what is Delmont at the same time looking up the inside of Vitford as they come through the left into the right now. Vitford goes a bit wide and now rejoins Carr off there in the rear of the picture. That is, I do believe, Daniel Downey who's taking the trip to the weeds, but as the drivers make the way out turn number 12 and on towards 13. Meanwhile, McCluskey versus Meredith still ongoing as they make the way through the right-hander of 13. Upwards they go towards turn number 14, in towards the braking zone, and McCluskey is defending, and I think now cementing the move and finally taking the overall third place spot after what has been a great battle between the two of them on this open lap. But look at the gap, it's given Gardner and Addy already, with Gardner 2 seconds clear of the rest of the field effective, bar Addy, as they make the way towards the end of lap 1. But after one lap of race, it's Gavin Gardner who leads ahead of Matthew Addy P2, Benjamin McCluskey P3, ahead of Alex Meredith P4, Paul Zanatachi P5, Luciano Vitford P6, Wojciech Swirydowicz P7, Ballard still with Adam Delmont and Daniel Martin who are P7, P8, P9 we should say, and it's P10 to Dan Mould as they come down to the brakes, with Swirydowicz going defensive here as hard as he possibly can as they go through a bit of contact there with Delmont who's pushed wide as a result, but I think Swirydowicz given as good as Delmont will get, and as they make the way on through turn number 2 and in towards 3. Well, right now these two still fighting hard as meanwhile Zanatachi looking up the inside there in the rear of the picture versus Alex Meredith gets the place of the Prime leader, will be the Prime P2 driver, I should say, chasing after leader Matthew Addy. And as they make the way out turn number 4 down towards 5 again now, M1 line astern. Meanwhile, Jaroslav Sabula continues to fall down the order to a degree. I think the weight holding him back to an extent, but also finding himself battling with Nick Clemens and Mikey Doble. Mikey Doble as well, not really making any progress at the start. He's getting 1 place, but Nick Clemens getting involved. Sabula defending here versus Clemens as they make the way on through turn 6 and 7. And as they make the way on down the hill, well, right now we ride on board with the Semper Racing driver as he looks to try and chase after Doble. He's got Clemens close behind and Clemens here on the rear, albeit you can't quite see him at the moment. Meanwhile, Jamie Dory drifting under braking in the Audi RS3. That's rare we see that from Dory. A very loose car today, plus also that extra weight in the car not helping. The best part of what is 40 kilograms of success ballast in the car through that third place finish in race number 2. And as they made the way through left into right here, Sabula taking a little bit of gravel for his misdemeanors. And as we look back from the rear of Sabula's car, we can see Nick Clemens there waiting to bounce. Going to look up the inside into turn 11. No, he doesn't. In fact, very patient approach there from Clemens. I thought he would have gone for the move, and therefore I think right now eager to let Svyrydowicz stay with Doble and not cause them to lose the lead in pack. But Svyrydowicz there going slowly, and that will be for the gravel he took coming out of turn number 10. An automated slowdown penalty for the iRacing stewarding system, and that will cost him 2 places. Plus the momentum as Reese Watt now look around the outside, coming up through turn number 13, up towards 14 they go. Reese Watt making some progress. Also Sam Van Olst, your third place prime driver here, as he makes his way through the left into right. But as they do, meanwhile, it's going to be, I think, a bit of tears in front. We've had a car off, and I think Jamie Dory's got it very wrong. Coming on through Vidal, he's rejoined, but he's lost places. We have had a couple of instances, a remarkable one, ladies and gentlemen, and we get an immediate replay of what happened to Jamie Dory. When this was going on through the Vidal chicane, losing the rear of the car and having to catch the car in time, does very well to do so, putting faith in the front end of the car and putting the power down to straighten the car out, but that could have been close to disaster for the Next Gen Pink driver. Loses 3 places in the end, and meanwhile we return to your live pictures only for a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen, because we have had some huge incidents on the start of the race, which, as Rob Sutherland has pointed out, look at those gaps from P20 backwards, how big they are after only 2 laps of racing, and we are going to bring you some replays of the biggest incidents in all of that very shortly. But meanwhile, as we do look to your live pictures, this is Swirydowicz versus Vitford as they make the way down towards turn number 6. Swirydowicz on the inside here trying to gain another place versus the Brand Esports driver, and meanwhile Vitford really trying to get the elbows out, trying to assert some pressure of dominance over Swirydowicz. But I think that dominance only going one way, and the 80 driver here really trying to make it count. But as they make the way through, it's going to be 3 wider as Daniel Martin looking up the inside, Adam Delwant behind, and as they all make their way down to the braking zone, Martin goes for 1, he goes for 2, in for a penny, in for a pound, and he makes it count. Or does he? Easily lose the rear end of the car? He catches it in time, but it's going to be contact with Swirydowicz. They make them out of the corner, and what was going to be an absolutely sensational 2-for-1 move into turn 8 ends up in disaster. Bitford does get through. Adam Delwant gains 2 places as a result, and as they make the way up towards turn number 11, it means now that Dan Mould is back in the mix as well, as they come into left-hand turn at number 11 for the 3rd time of asking. But from them, Mikey Doble right now trying to put some more pressure on Miss Josie Doble, his brother, going around the outside to inside at turn 11 into 12, with Jamie Dory behind him, the Doble Sim Racing pair under a lot of pressure. Dory keeping Watt behind. Then we do have what is Sam Van Olst on the back of this, the 3rd place prime driver right now watching on, as meanwhile Andrew Holmes finds his way past Jaroslav Sabula, the 4th place prime driver here. You can see his target Sam Van Olst in front, and he says I want it. He wants to be on the podium as he makes his way through the left into right of the privateer, and as they come on through and onto the rise they go, onto the brakes. We can see here Sabula immediately coming back on the inside into 16. He doesn't want to let this go either, as they make the way out of the right hander and onwards towards turn number 1. It's going to be a drag race between the 2 of them here. Both of them have spined to gain major results, there's no question about it, but which one of them is going to get away with it? That's the big question. Well, in the end, I think it is going to be Andrew Holmes who gets this done. But as they make the way on down into the braking zone for turn number 1, we take a look back at an instant. In fact, we're not going to take a look back because there's Sabula trying to go around the outside, but Holmes at this time extending the corner nicely, and Sabula going a bit too deep to make the move count, and that gives us a chance to take a look back at what exactly happened on our opening lap, starting with what was Peter Greenwood having an off-track moment after major damage, and goodness me, that's a huge chunk coming out of turn number 11 into 12, so we try and take a look back at what exactly happened to Peter Greenwood, and well, I think we may not get an exact answer, but what we will do is get some answers from what was Mark Sykes. And this was coming into what was Vidal chicane as they all made the way through. I think an error there from what was one of the iRacing Esports drivers. Mark Sykes coming on through the corner, survives it, but in fact that was, goodness me, that was going to be 4 wide. They all survived it there, albeit they didn't in the end, as Russell Fowler turned across the front. I think Ben Altrier, Mark Sykes in contact there, and that was one of the major incidents at the start of this race on the end of the opening lap. I think we've got more to find out with regards to what happened to Peter Greenwood on what was the opening lap, and in fact I think we now do have the, oh goodness me, Mark Sykes to the wall there, turned in on the braking zone, and we have a further incident to explain here of Peter Greenwood, and it all came in front of Peter Greenwood with cars left, right and centre, and this was down towards turn number 8. Can we see what started that incident is the big question we'd like to see the answer to, and well, we will try and take a look back. This was from Luke Jones. In fact, this was the start of the race for Luke Jones from JW Motorsport, and well, everyone making it through the opening couple of quarters safe and sound. We're not going to stay with, oh, could it be not everyone making it through safe and sound? There was contact. That was one of the RD Simsport drivers getting turned, and well, Luke Jones able to avoid it all. So that's where it all started, and then things got much more aggressive from that point onwards, and I believe we did have Wayne Douglas involved in a bit of a shunt. This was later on, then coming down to turn 6 and 7 on the opening lap. Greenwood on what was the outside there, the 35, and there was the contact between Greenwood and Douglas, I think. Douglas coming back across the road, and that kicked off the domino effect, and well, in the end, Wayne Douglas being at the centre of a major incident, and drivers having to take evasive action, but a number of drivers being heavily affected as a result. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we do need to return to live racing now. As much as we like to dwell on replays, we've also got plenty of battling occurring further up the field, so we do apologise we can't catch everything. And as we look back here to Andrew Holmes fighting with what is Jasper Sabula, and right on the back of Sam Van Ols right now, and well, Holmes I think is going to be absolutely frothing at the mouth here, proverbially, in the fact he wants to make progress, but it's going to be Van Ols who's in contact with Sabula, but it's going to be Holmes who makes contact with Sabula as they try to settle things down. Van Ols getting his elbows out to say to Sabula there's no need for that, and as they make the way towards turn number 6, onto the brakes they go. Well, right now, Van Ols having to defend hard versus Holmes with Sabula as well. Holmes just trying to batter his way on through Sabula in terms of trying to get clear of the pro driver. He wants to go hunting after third place in the Prime class, understandably so, but he's not being any time of day to do so. As Sabula, meanwhile, has got Lee Horn for company as they make the run to the brakes towards turn number 8, and Sabula there defending hard, and Lee Horn and William Guthrie right on the back of him as they make the way up the hill now towards turns 9 and 10, heading out towards the Schumacher S. We jump on board here with William Guthrie as he makes way through, cutting back there into the apex line, trying to gain the momentum. Horn and a little bit of contact there with Sabula. That's going to give Guthrie the outside line, but he's going to be boxed in here versus Sabula, and therefore has to break a little bit earlier than planned, but Horn going hard on the inside. This is going to make it almost 3 wide as they make the way into Bilstein Curve. We can see that Guthrie has to cut back again, and Horn parks the car on apex, or does he? No, in fact, Guthrie gets the better run off the corner, and it's going to be a drag race now all the way up towards Vito as they charge the way around, and as they do, well, the two drivers go side by side, Horn versus Guthrie here, and it's going to be Sabula who pulls them along, tries to get them to fight one another as they make the way into the braking zone. Horn on the inside, Guthrie on the outside. Guthrie has to back off in the end. 2 does not go into one at Vito. He loses a lot of speed as a result, and Isaac Doe and Daniel Downing now closed up as they make the way into the final corner. But rolling their way on through, Doble and Downing having to wait their turn and stick behind. Whilst all this is playing out, we can also tell you that further up the field, in fact, let's show you, it's the battle of the SRL NXTGEN drivers. This is Dan Mould versus what is none other than Adam Delman. Alex Meredith being in the mix there, and Meredith being passed by Dan Mould, and also Delman being passed by was Mould there. A 2 for 1 from Dan Mould in towards turn number 1. And as they make the way down to turn number 3 right now, next target will be at Bitford, the Bramley Esports driver just in front of that wonderful livery as they make the way through the right-hander at turn number 4, up towards 6 they go, but it's going to calm down for a brief moment, or is it? That will be the question on everybody's lips. Meanwhile, in terms of what's the top 4, no changes in that top 4. It's Gardner, Henry McCluskey, then Zanatoshi, then Addy, your prime leader P4, but meanwhile Alex Meredith here finding himself more and more having to battle with the pros around him, and I think right now the RD Simsport driver wants to push forward towards Matthew Addy. I think he might have to settle for P2 at this rate, or wait to see if it will come to him, given the fact the pros are all very eager to make progress. And you see up the inside goes Swirydowicz, and looking on through there, and this is where it all went wrong for Swirydowicz earlier on, in contact with Daniel Martin after Martin's attempt at a 2 for 1 pass into turn 8, who almost pulled it off. A little bit of oversteer catching him out, but Meredith keeping Swirydowicz behind right now, and this will be a team order as well, in the fact that you can imagine if Meredith can keep Swirydowicz behind, that will give Daniel Martin, fellow RD Simsport driver, an opportunity to get back in that fight and some more team points to be accrued versus Semper Ace in the team's championship rivalry. But as they make the way through turns 11 into 12 behind them, we do see Andrew Holmes still fighting versus Van Ols. We ride on board here in the battle for P3 in the Prime class. Great battling between these two as they make the way on and through the right-hander at turn number 12. Holmes gets the better run. The Audi now starts to build up the acceleration. We'll see the Honda gets alongside, but it's too long a run for the Honda to fully clear its rival. And as they make the way on through, going side by side into Vito, it's going to be a battle on the brakes, and the Honda will win the battle on the brakes, albeit it won't when it's on the outside. And that's how Sam Van Ols can precisely take that corner and hold the position. Holmes has got the momentum. He's got the lap pace, but what he hasn't got is the right place to get ahead and make it count, and that's the change that confounds him now with only 4 laps of racing remaining here today in Germany. But as they make the way on down the start finish straight, meanwhile we look to Swirydowicz versus what is Alex Meredith and also Daniel Martin as Meredith goes wide. Martin up the inside, a teammate as well as Swirydowicz, as they make the way through turn number 2 and in towards 3. Well, the RD Simsport drivers here, I think, are going to swap places. They're going to stay out of trouble from one another. And well, for Alex Meredith, it does mean he's now relegated down to P10. But I think he'll be hoping that Daniel Martin and Swirydowicz can very quickly catch up to the rest of the field in front. and bringing Matthew Addy back into the mix, or at least that'll be the hope. But I think that might be a long way away, given the fact that Matthew Addy is in P4, a very comfortable P4, with 8/10 of a second over Luciano Vitford in P5. But of course, there's still plenty of time remaining in this race, and as our drivers weave their way on through the corners, making their way downhill, right now the Semper Racer driver Swirydowicz chasing after Delmont, and the target will be to try and gain as many places as possible to offset that disastrous race number 1. But from them, we do look a little bit further down the order to, in particular, Lee Horn, who making his way down in towards turn number 8 as well now, battling with Andrew Holmes, looking for the spot here for what would be P17. It's not class position that matters to Lee Horn, given he's a pro driver. It's overall position only, and he wants to be P15 or higher because that's where the points sit. But as they make their way in towards turns 9 and 10, he's got William Guthrie for company, and Guthrie not having the technical issues that he experienced in what was race number 2, and having started from P41 to make it all the way out to P19. Credit to the full Tilby Motorsport driver. Even if he doesn't get any points in this race, he'll definitely be one to give himself a pat on the back with regards to recovery, as he makes his way through turn at number 12. Isaac Double and Justin Sevilla a bit further behind, but Guthrie here definitely on the charge and looking to gain at least one more place before this race is over and done with today. Coming on through turn number 13 and onwards towards turn number 14. Meanwhile, we had a change of lead, and it's the next gen pink drivers of McCluskey and Gardner, with McCluskey cutting up from the inside there into turn 16. I think this might be a decision, a tactical one made between the two teammates to work together here and break away from Zanatachi, as right now there's no sign of Gardner making an error through Vidal into 16, into the Hyundai in curve. I think it is that right now McCluskey is the faster driver, and meanwhile Gardner can perhaps act as a little bit more of a defensive driver versus Zanatachi, and make sure the Affinity driver can't claim the win here. But Next Gen Pink having to prioritise the points as much as possible for the team now as they make their way on through turn number 3. We ride on board and look back from the rear of your race leader in the Hyundai Veloster in the 531, and you can see right now the long train of cars is inching closer and closer with every apex met, and McCluskey is breaking away. I think now Next Gen Pink have had to hedge their bets behind one driver and get the other to act as the rear guard. It's a smart decision, and Gardner, we do know, defends very well when he needs to. He's one of the fairest defenders out there, and as they make their way down through turn number 7 in towards A, will the Audi RS3 driver have all the acceleration he needs in that Audi versus the Veloster of Zanatachi? He's just got to make sure he nails those braking points time and time again. As they come on through turn at number 8, you can see that all three drivers also feeling that tyre wear started to creep in this circuit. Very aggressive on the tyres as they make their way on through. Behind Matthew Addy, still P4. Chase his first overall top 5 of the season, but also with that the Pro-Am win, his first overall his first Pro-Am win as well, as he makes his way up the rise and in towards turn at number 11. He's got a long line of cars behind. At the back of it all is Alex Meredith, the man who wants to try and hunt down Matthew Addy, but he's too far away to be involved, some would say, at this point in time. And I think right now it may be more of a question of having to wait to see if anything happens up front. But meanwhile, speaking of things that have happened further down the order, we can tell you that Sam Vidal has been able to clear Andrew Holmes, and Holmes in fact has dropped a bit further down the order and has recently been passed by what is Isaac Doble. We will try and explain what happened there very shortly. In fact, another place being gained. This is Daniel Downing, who's making his way up the inside to 13 versus Andrew Holmes. So I think Holmes has either got a wounded car or something has gone very, very wrong for Andrew Holmes recently, but Daniel Downing making progress. Here comes Jaroslav Sabula, can't quite find it behind, but Daniel Downing for Goldwing Motorsport making the place count as our leaders have gone on to the penultimate lap of race. Holmes coming back here, Dan defending hard in what is a slightly bruised Hyundai Elantra. You can see over the front right wheel arch there where he's picked up damage previously in contact, and I think the front right suspension not pointing in the right direction. Sabula looking to the inside, can't quite find it as Holmes covers it off, looking for the move of Downing. They power their way down the start finish straight here, and Holmes definitely has not got straight line speed. I think there's been a shunt to that Honda because he's just not got any straight line. We know the Honda's slowing the straights, but not that slow. Sabula looking around the outside, finds a face for the rear bumper of Downing. Holmes on the inside almost makes it count versus Downing. Meanwhile, Stephen Fry also getting to the mix there in the 35, and as they make their way through the left-hander of Mercedes AMG and down towards turn number 3, the arena right now presenting opportunities for some, or will it? Will look so here. Everyone's staying as per the status quo, but from them, meanwhile, Damon Mulqueen also getting into the hunt here. The Synergy, the sim racing driver, eager to make progress for the Australian team as he makes his way down towards turn number 6. I think may find himself up against the wall here, given the fact that everyone right now very closely tucked together, and well, for the 42 driver, when he looks through, he's got to look for a move not just on one but potentially 2 drivers. But meanwhile, cutting from them back up towards the front of the field, this is Luciano Vitford still trying to keep Adam Delmont behind him as they make their way up through the Schumacher S once again for the 9th time today in this race as they come on through and up towards 11. Well, it is the big question here, the question that's hanging over the head of the 60 driver. Can he hold on for a little bit longer? He's been keeping Delmont behind him for lap after lap, and Delmont has thrown everything at this so far to no avail. And as well as that, meanwhile, in your race lead battle, you can see here are your top three. They do have a lap down Ben Trier, who's going to steer clear of what is the drivers as the blue flags are waved. Flashing lights there from third place man Paul Zenatachi. He's hoping that he'll be given the opportunity to come through. Once he does clear Vito, El Trier goes straight on, and as he does so, he'll rejoin on the pit lane entry point. And I think they're just trying to steer clear of drivers and making his way on in. So therefore, El Trier sacrificing his lap in order to stay safe. Very sportsmanlike of the chap there, good gentlemanly driver. And as they make the way down towards turn number 1, well, Dan Moulderby well tucked in behind Matthew Addy. As they make the way onwards towards the final lap of race, and white flag waves. Dan Mould wants P4. Matthew Addy knows it doesn't mean as much to him. Mould up the inside immediately, and Addy here will turn on in, but he'll find the rear quarter panel of Mould's car. Bit of contact there with Vitford as well, but Addy doesn't need to beat these guys to be your prime winner today. All he needs to do is get that car home with Alex Meredith back in P10. So Addy right now just needs to be smart with this. But meanwhile, I think the big question is, does Addy fight this hard or does he let it go? And I think there might be your answer. He's going to fight it hard as it's side by side coming out to turn 4. Onwards they go towards turn number 6, and behind is Adam Delmont, who's going to ride on the back of it into the braking zone. And with that, the two pros make their way past the prime driver as they come in towards turn number 7. And Addy still with a sizable gap, still two pros between himself and his next rival, Alex Meredith. I think he'll feel safe all the way down now, knowing there's no real more fight coming from Daniel Martin, who's 6 tenths back and not really close enough to get involved. But Adam Delmont here trying to get involved versus Vitford right at the end. But I think it's going to require a lunge on the brakes here unless Vitford makes an error coming on through the last couple of quarters. Given the fact, the Brown Esports driver, credit to be given to the number 60 driver. He's not let the instance of races 1 and 2 phase him whatsoever. He's kept his head down every step of the way and is fighting hard for those final positions inside this top 5. And as he makes his way in towards turn number 11 with Adam Delmont behind, of course, one of the trickiest drivers to deal with. A bit of a Dick Dastardly, if you will. I like to think of Adam Delmont as a bit of a Jason Plato in the fact that he's always going to get involved and fight very hard for positions, and sometimes potentially rub you up the wrong way or get you wound up. As they make the way on through turn number 13 up towards 14. We'll make the way in towards the braking zone right now. Matthew Addy behind looking for the move. He can't quite find it. But meanwhile, looking to the front of the field, Benjamin McCluskey makes his way to the final corner. He's yet to pick up a win this season. That's all about to change. For as he makes way out the final corner, he'll be your winner in your final race today. It's an NXTGEN Pink 1-2, and it's brought home by Benjamin McCluskey, your winner ahead of Gavin Gardner. Paul Zenatachi makes his way onto the podium. P3 for Affinity, ahead of Dan Mould and Luciano Vitford. Adam Dillon P6, and then Matthew Addy takes his first prime win of the season, P7 overall for NXTGEN with Sam Cases. It'll then be Daniel Martin, Wojciech Swirydowicz between him and second place in class finish of prime of RD Simsports Alex Meredith, and then further back taking P17, a deserved final spot on the prime podium, P3 in class, P17 overall for Sam Van Olds for Goldwing Motorsport. We've still got more drivers to come on through, including Ian Manners, P29 here for the JW Motorsport driver, as he comes across the line, pushing a teammate there of what is, I do believe, the 222, a wounded 222 car of Luke Jones across the line, a lap down. Ian Manners, P29 then, Matthew Sheraton shortly coming on through for Aztec Racing at P30, and meanwhile Martin Shirley and Alan McCann, they're going to have a race to line here, and I think they've been battling quite hard for the remaining lap of this race, and the RD Simsport driver holds on versus Alan McCain, and then Russell Fowler comes on through P33 for the Performance League Esports team. The Briton crossing the line there ahead of Craig Tillerston, who will shortly come on through for P34 in what has definitely been a challenging race today, but he's still got more battling to go as Wayne Douglas right behind him, and Douglas trying to find a way through here, but Tillerston digging in as they make the way to the final corner. It goes a bit deep. I think it's going to be Douglas up the inside into the final corner, and that's going to see Wayne Douglas take P34 in the end as he crosses the line just ahead of Craig Tillerston. But still great little battle between them all the way to the checker flag. We've got a couple more drivers to finish the race yet, ladies and gents, so don't go away yet. Give them all a round of applause. They all deserve it. Paul Scott coming on through for P36 with NXTGEN with Sam Case's driver being caught up in that lap 1, turn 6 to turn 8 altercation, but still bringing the car on home there. The final points paying spot of the prime class, P15 in class, P36 overall. Harley Bicknell will come on through as well. The learning experience continues to go for the 99 driver JW Motorsport P37, and those will be all of your finishers on the lead lap, and we'll finish in a lap down the end. Luke Jones at P38 and finish in the pit lane. Ben Altrier 2 laps down, and Mark Sykes what was 3 laps down, head of Peter Greenwood, your last finisher P41. But as all the drivers make the way on through into Vidal, we look to Benjamin McCluskey, your winner today in the final race of the day and the first win of the season for him overall. A great drive for the 531 driver, and Next Gen Pink making the tactical switch in the end. Gavin Garner relinquishing the lead but focusing on acting defensive of P2, and I think an important move there to guarantee the 1-2 for the team and keeping a very aspiring Paul Zanatachi for Affinity P3 behind, but still a great result for him. And Matthew Addy meanwhile picking up his first prime win of the season. It's been some time coming, but the defending prime champion as well of what was Lee Horn, not too far behind in terms of overall positions, but you do have to keep in mind that the next gen Sam Case's driver will fighting for the Prime Championship once again, and that's going to be a huge haul of points in his pocket when all is said and done. But as they make the way on down, I think it's only appropriate, ladies and gentlemen, that we do cut to a replay of a battle that did occur right at the end. And this was the battle between Alan McCain and Martin Shirley going on to the final lap. These two may have only been fighting for what was, many would say, P31 overall. The pro of the RD Simsport driver versus the prime of iRace Esports in the form of Alan McCain. But still, a great battle between them as they made the way side by side into the Mercedes arena for turns 1 and 2. And McCain fights his way around the outside, only to have Shirley come back at him on the inside into turn 3, and that's where the major battle came to a close, and it was a pursuit all the way in to the end for Alan McCain, but he wasn't quite able to find a way back alongside Martin Shirley, making a great move, but great respectful race between the two of them. And as we return to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, most are drivers into the pits, and with that it is time for us to take you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. Benjamin McCluskey taking the final win of the day today for Next Gen Pink and making it a 1-2 for the team, head of Gavin Gardner, his teammate. Behind them, P3, Paul Zanatachi for Affinity, a further 4 tenths behind, and then it was 7 tenths to Dan Mole. P4 for SRL Next Gen, but with the points he's accrued today, right back in the thick of it at the top end of the overall championship. Luciano Vitford, the Prime Esports driver, in the end bringing on home an overall top 5 for the third time of trying today, despite the fact races 1 and 2 not going his way, but credit to the man who never gave up, and determination absolutely running deep within. And then SRL Next Gen's Adam Delman, he huffed, he puffed, and he tried to blow the aspirations of Vitford down, but he wasn't able to in the end, and finished P6 behind with Matthew Addy at P7. And the Next Gen with Sam Case's driver bringing home the pro and win in that position. Daniel Martin P8 for RD Simsport ahead of Wojciech Swirydowicz for Semper Racing. Another great day there for both drivers, albeit their altercation coming out of turn number 8 being a bit of a scary one. They've both been able to survive it, and that's good to see. Alex Meredith P10, your runner-up in the prime class there, and the RD Simsport driver bringing home a huge haul of points, it must be said. And then best the rest P11 at Nick Clibbins for iRace Esports. Double Sim Races, Joe Zadol and Mikey Doyle P12, P13, and a challenging day today for Double Sim Racing, no doubts about it. Head of Next Gen at Pink's Jamie Dory and Reese Watt completing your overall top 15 finishing positions and all the points positions there for the JW Motorsport team. William Guthrie P16 fighting hard from the back of the field to that finishing position. A great drive there, and as Mark Kent says, Will made it to P16. What a drive from the back indeed, starting P41. And then Sam Van Ol's P17 for Goldwing Motorsport, but more importantly for him at third place in the prime class and completing that prime podium of Addy, Meredith and Van Olst. Behind the Goldwing Motorsports driver, Lee Horn P18 ahead of Isaac Doe and Daniel Downing. Isaac Doe will finally fight his way to P5 in the prime class in the final race of the day, but definitely has been a day of what has been dogged results, and therefore this might become his drop score come the end of the season. But outside the top 20 from Daniel Downing, it's Andrew Holmes P21, the privateer, going backwards towards the end after what looked to be a fight for the prime podium, but still great form today from the Honda driver, and we can expect plenty more going into the second half of the season. Jaroslav Sabila, P22 ahead of Stephen Fry, with Darren McQueen and Sam Smith completing your top 25. And then Duncan Moraes at P26 are ahead of Crest Autosports' Alex Everett, Jay Clay P28. And as we look further on down the order to complete the top 30, Ian Maz and Matthew Sheraton ahead of P31's Martin Shirley, who in the end managed to hold off Alan McCain to the line in the battle for P31. Russell Fowler P33 for Performance Link Esports had a Wayne Douglas, and then Craig Tiddleston, Paul Scott, Harley Bicknell completing your Finishing positions on the lead lap were Luke Jones at P38 for JW Motorsport, a lap down, and then to complete your finish in order there, 3 laps down, Ben Altrier parking it up in the pits with 3 laps to spare, a technical issue on the car perhaps, or being called in to retire. Mark Sykes, an unfortunate early retiree, 3 laps into the race for NXTGEN with Sam Cases, and Peter Green with the same 2 laps in for P739 Motorsports. He'll be classified as a non-finisher, as will Mark Sykes, so they did not complete over half race distance, and therefore 39 finishers out of 41 starters, of which 37 on the lead lap, ladies and gentlemen. But with that concludes our racing here today, but it doesn't quite conclude our broadcast here today, because of course we've got coming up shortly our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. And do let us know in the meantime, when we do cut away, who have been your stars of the show today. We're glad to see so many of you have enjoyed the broadcast, and thank you for the feedback there. James BGP2 in the YouTube chat, and Catherine Meredith saying, great battling tonight, indeed fantastic racing between our drivers. But without further ado, we are going to take a breather, but don't go anywhere. We'll be back in approximately 10 to 12 minutes time for our post-round interviews with our 3 volunteer drivers. We will see you very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back and set for our post-round interviews. Now tonight we're only going to be hearing from one of our drivers who's volunteered their time. It does happen every so often and can completely understand. I think our drivers all wanting to cool down after what's definitely been perhaps the most intense round of race of this season so far at the Nürburgring as of today, as we bring the first half of the season to a close. But we are going to be hearing from a stalwart of the series, none other than the Pro Classes Doble Sim Racing driver of the 88 of Mikey Doble, race winner in race number 2, and he's going to be our interviewee for today. And without further ado, let's bring him into the interview room, and he does join me now. Good evening to you, Mikey, and well, what a day of race it has been from yourself. A recurring theme, of course, in this series being all about taking the points when you can, and no exception today for yourself in the fact a P8 in race 1, a win in race number 2, and a 13th place in race number 3, points in all 3 of the races, and a big score in race number 2.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think after a rocky week last week, getting involved in an accident in race 2, it was quite important to get back on the point scoring train and try and claw my way back towards the top of the standings. Obviously, it's incredibly close, but yeah, I mean, consistency really does pay off at the end of the season. So yeah, I'm happy with the races I got tonight and scored some solid points.
Well, it was a tough field to break your way through today. We saw a lot of standout performances from drivers in both the Prime and the Pro classes, and that was really shown in qualifying. A P12 from yourself in a qualifying session that was always going to be tight, but I have to ask, how was qualifying from your perspective?
Yeah, qualifying wasn't my best, I don't think. I didn't really hook the lap together. I think that it's definitely had more potential than, I think, P12 or P11 where I qualified. So yeah, I would have liked to have been maybe more towards the top 6 really in qualifying, and I think I could have held my own. But yeah, I mean, a bad qualifying and then a bad start in race 1 kind of made the race difficult for me, and just kind of had to pick cars off where I could. But yeah, it wasn't the best qualifying session I've had all year, I must say.
May not have been the best qualifying session, and like you say, it leads to a challenge at the start. And just take us through that race starting race number 1. I mean, starting at P12, and keep in mind, going for our viewers at home, going into turn number 1 from a spectator's perspective, it looks thrilling. But of course, from a driver's perspective, I'm sure Mikey will explain a little bit more. It can be quite nerve-wracking when you've got multiple cars in front and behind, and everyone's concertina into that hairpin.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to watch your mirrors as much as you are out the windshield, really, going into turn 1 at this track. But you know, turn 1 is one of the biggest pinch points on the track in terms of everyone diving for the apex on lap 1, and quite often it can be the scene of an accident on the first corner in real life and obviously on the sim. But I think tonight, to be fair, or at least in the top 15 anyway, everyone seemed to be behaving themselves on the first couple of laps through the first complex there, and it was actually it made for some very good racing and very clean racing beyond then. So yeah, it was it's once you can get the first few corners out of the way, it kind of does settle down a bit round here. The track narrows in and you can get into a bit of a rhythm. But yeah, like I say, race 1 was just get through the first couple of corners. Sadly lost a couple of places, but I think the true pace with the ballast I had kind of started to shine through, and obviously managed to climb up to P8. So
It was a great drive to an 8th place, finishing in firmly inside the top 10, and then a reverse grid draw which saw the number 9 come out and start yourself on the front row for race number 2, and you didn't hold back in chasing the lead at the start.
yeah, I mean, it's nice to catch the reverse grid. You never complain at that. So with a little success ballast on the car and a front row start, I thought I was in for a good result there. So obviously Jamie and that Audi, the Audi gets fantastic starts off the line, slightly better than the Hyundais, and obviously Jamie's a very good starter and knows the car very well. So I wasn't surprised to see him make the jump on me and Jaroslaw there and get into the lead. But yeah, it was a really fun race. That was probably one of my favourites of the season, that the 3 of us were racing nose to tail with a fag papers width between us for about 5 or 6 laps, and it was very clean. And yeah, hats off to Jamie and Jaroslaw for leaving us both when we were side by side through some very fast sections on the track, and hopefully it made for an exciting race for the viewers.
Oh, without question. And I do have to ask on that, of course, the three of you working together in terms of battling with one another, but do you think there was also a bit of a mutual understanding that with a pack of 5 to 6 cars coming up behind, about 3 seconds back, that you guys were sort of holding back most of the fight until the late stages to make sure it didn't turn into, say, a 5 or 6-way fight for the win?
Yeah, I wouldn't say we was working together in terms of trying to make the break from the other guys. Well, I certainly wasn't anyway. But I think now the series has changed over the last few seasons. Like, it's so competitive now, and when you've got the opportunity to be racing for the lead, when your rivals are back in 10th, 11th place, you kind of have to be sensible and be rational about your decisions, and kind of, you don't want to lose the points that you're bagging, whether it be P2, P1. You know, like, I got a bit carried away at Brazil when going for a move that was 50-50 and got caught up in a bit of an incident. But yeah, just kind of trying to bide my time, and I think that Jamie and Jaroslaw were probably thinking the same mentality as I was there. So yeah, I mean, even when you're racing for 10th or you're racing for the lead, you've really got to think about the moves you're making, because if you make one foul move and you go wide onto the grass or something, you're not losing 3 or 4 places anymore, you're losing 15, and that can just really turn a championship on its head, especially approaching the mid stages of the championship. You're already thinking about bagging the points to be in contention for the last few rounds.
Oh, very true, and having to always think ahead for the championship, something that's been a recurring theme as we've gone through season 5 so far, when we've spoken to, say, yourself, alternatively Jamie, just to talk about 2 big names on the field. I'm sure all of our championship contenders are thinking the same or along similar lines, and that thinking going forward then into race number 3. Of course, the reverse grid this time being our smallest reverse grid at P13, and for yourself, it looked as though it was a race whereby some progress was made, but also some instance around you as well, just halting progress being into the top 10.
Yeah, it was kind of 1 step forward, 2 steps back, really, all of race 3, and I managed to salvage a P13, which is obviously where I started. So the ballast, I must say, didn't seem to be as penalising round here as it has been at some other circuits. Don't know why, but it still made a difference. But you were still able to be in the race and have a good race. So it wasn't like we was falling off back into the clutches of the sort of 25th, 26th positions with full ballast around this track. You know, we were able to sustain a fairly decent race pace. But yeah, it's so tough. You know, you've got the top 20 covered by 2 or 3 temps or so in qualifying. So being pushed back to P13 for the grid and having 70 odd litres in the car or whatever we go out with just kind of is enough that you can't make any progress, because those guys that might otherwise be 2 tenths slower than you on genuine pace become a tenth quicker than you once you've got the ballast, and you're just not going to pass them. So yeah, you've just kind of got to know when your battle is not going to be won, and just bag the points once again. It's a boring way of racing, but it's the way you've got to do it if you want to be there at the end of the championship.
I'm with you on that. Whilst it may not be the most thrilling approach, like you say, if you want to be in it to win it, sometimes you've got to play the less exciting approach to the racing. And speaking of excitement, we did see a bit of a near-miss moment coming through the fast Vidal chicane between yourself and other 2-time champion Jamie Dory. Looks like the 2 of you there reigniting the battles that we've seen from the both of you over the last 4 seasons, albeit perhaps getting a bit too close for comfort.
Yeah, again, that's another moment that stands out to me throughout the course of the night, as how much respect there was out there between Jamie and some of the other guys I was racing. It was just a pleasure to be a part of, really, because I think in seasons gone by we may not have made that work. I might have tried to pinch him in a little bit closer to the apex, and he may not have backed out and run me through the gravel or something. But you know, we all know the rules now, that we're not to run other cars off the track, and we're entitled to racing room. And you know, when you're racing people like Jamie, you know that you can go into a corner side by side no matter how fast it is, and that we're going to both come out the other end unscathed, you know, and that's kind of what you want. I think that the driving standards have definitely improved in this championship, particularly this season. Everyone seems to be racing with a lot more respect than they have done in other seasons gone by. But yeah, it was a close bit of racing, but I didn't think for 1 second that I would end up in the barriers or anything, or facing the wrong direction. So, yeah, credit to the other drivers. It's very good racing at the moment.
100% agree, and with the fantastic racing we've seen today, of course going into tonight you were P4 in the championship, but provisionally you've moved back into P3, and the gap between yourself and championship leader Daniel Martin now sits at what is expected to be 59 points coming to the end of the first half of the season. You may not be leading, but you're well in the hunt. How do you feel your first 5 rounds of the season have gone?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've kind of maximised what I had for the most part. I think at Brazil, like I said, I got a bit greedy on an overtake, and then after a judicial after the event, I ended up with a penalty, which cost me quite a few positions there. But otherwise, I haven't really made any mistakes. Obviously, I got caught up in an accident at Mosport last weekend, which cost me a chunk of points. But if I actually look at the championship standings that matter, and the after drop scores, I'm actually only 8 points behind Daniel Martin. So I think that's the championship focus that we should be zoning in on, and 8 points is not a lot, especially at this point of the season. So yeah, there's still at least 6 or 7 drivers, possibly 8 or 9 actually, when you look at the championship, that are going to be in contention for this, and yeah, every point counts.
Oh, without a doubt, like you say, and well, with so many drivers still in contention at this point, it does mean it's all going to go down to fine margins as we charge into the second half of the season. Speaking of which, there's no break. In fact, we carry on the story next week by remaining in Germany and making our way to Motorsport Arena Oschersleben, a circuit which John Clennon once remarked with regards to a certain opening corner, which we'll be seeing in a week's time. How are you feeling with regards to the Oschersleben circuit?
Yeah, so I think we raced it a couple of seasons ago. Am I right in thinking that we're using the old first corner, the first complex, where it's very sharp and tight?
Indeed.
Right, yeah. No, I do sort of vaguely remember that from my childhood, watching a bit of World Touring Car and seeing chaos break out the first corner. And it doesn't surprise me that NXTGEN are going to put our driving standards that we've all improved onto the test next week. On the first corner there. If the first corner at Nürburgring isn't challenging enough, then that certainly is going to be, because that's about half the width of this track. So the track is a good track. It's technical. I think that good drivers and precise drivers will rise to the top round there. So I'm hoping that being more of a British style track with lots of corners, I might do quite well round there, but we'll just have to see.
We definitely do look forward to seeing you bring your best performance to the circuit in a week's time. But just before we do let you go, Mikey, as always, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Yeah, so as always, to NXTGEN Racing for continuing to progress the league. It's just going from strength to strength, and it's great to see the standard of the drivers and more new drivers coming in. So well done as always. Well done to you, Paul, for an amazing broadcast. Look forward to watching it later or tomorrow. Any family that are watching from their comfort of their living rooms with a cup of tea at the moment, if they're still watching, hope you enjoyed the broadcast. And as always, anyone else that knows me that is also watching, thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.
Well, Mikey, we definitely look forward to seeing you out on circuit in a week's time at Motorsport Arena Oschersleben. But until then, congratulations on the fine set of results from the Nürburgring circuit today. Like you say, the standard of racing continues to go higher and higher, and with it, your performances continue to grow as well. And we look forward to plenty more in round number 6. But until then, have a fantastic rest of your evening.
And you, Paul. Thanks very much.
So hearing it there from Mikey Doble, the Doble Sim Racing driver, 2-time NXTCC overall drivers champion, and we're remarking there on how close the racing is and how the standard of racing is really complementing just how finely tuned this field is, in the fact that when it's 2-3 tenths that separate you from being on pole versus being all the way down to the bottom end of the top 20, qualifying and indeed every overtake matters more than most now in the NXTCC. And an interesting reflection there saying that qualifying definitely definitely was not one of his finest qualifying sessions. P12 on the grid, even with what was the fourth place success balance going into it. So I think expecting more, and particularly to be inside the top 10, and therefore having to salvage what was an initial grind through the field in race number 1, and doing well to take P8. And we're light amount of success balance, and like he said, being within the reverse grid draw and taking quite a bit of a buoyant approach to that and charging after that win in race number 2, before then race number 3, the maximum success balance, and what was an okayish start, but finding himself in just as much battles in terms of progressing as falling backwards, and race number 3 still finishing inside the points, but not quite able to pick up as much as perhaps he would like from that final race, but all the way through the common undercurrent of theme being the enjoying the racing, fine racing standards, and everybody giving a great amount of space to one another, as we've seen multiple instances of that in the replay footage in the background. So it really goes to show right now that our two-time champion and defending champion this season, respecting the racing around him and recognising that as the standard has gone up, so has his standard got to go up in terms of the performances he brings to each and every round, and we're expecting plenty more from him at Oschersleben in a week's time as he looks to try and close that delta to the championship leader, as you'll see shortly of Daniel Martin. But do keep in mind those drop scores still to be factored in as the season goes on, and therefore things will be a lot closer come the end of the season compared to where they are now if the trajectory carries on as it is. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for today. We've only had one interview, but still, whilst we may have not had the quantity of interviews, we have had a quality interview with Mikey Doble there, the pro class driver, giving us his thoughts of Doble Sim Racing. And congratulations to him on his fantastic set of performances today, and thank you to him for joining us in the interview room. But with that, before we do wrap up, let's give you a quick update on the provisional Drivers' Championship standings, both in the overall and also the IMB Racewear Prime Championship, coming out of round number 5. And as we can see, starting off with the overall standings, the top 15, Daniel Martin continues to lead on 549 points. Picking up a good haul of points today and consistent across the board. And what it does mean is his advantage has been cut slightly, albeit it's not been cut to Wojciech Swirydowicz, who has fallen a little bit further behind, who didn't quite pick up as many points as Daniel Martin after the difficulties of race number 1. But Mikey Doble has shortened the gap in the top 3 and leapt back into P3, now to 490 points. And Delmont back to P4 there, a further 16 points behind, but not out of it yet. And indeed looking to try and hunt down that top 3, with Jamie Dory only a point off in that top 5, could not be closer. And then Joseph Doble falling to P6 on 451. Janice Sabila a further 5 points behind, and then you do have that notable gap of 43 points to Gavin Gardner. But with that second place finish in race number 3, definitely right now keeping himself alive inside that top 10, with Paul Zanatachi at P9 and 392 points. Another great day for the Veloster drive from Affinity, and making his way into P9 ahead of Dan Mould. Mould getting great points as well, but then with the fact that we do have shy of what is 160 points between P1 and P10. All of our pro drivers there gunning for the overall championship, and you can't count any of them out currently. The same could be said for Benjamin McCluskey. 110 points gained today with the win in race number 3, really adding to his points bank account, now up to his 350 points. He's starting to steer clear of Lee Horn, with Isaac Doble struggling today, it would seem, and therefore falling to P13, the leading prime driver in the overall championship, and Alex Meredith now only what is there the best part of 19 points behind. Indeed, that gap is closing between the two prime drivers for the right to be the leader in the overall championship for the primes. And Nick Clemens finds himself into P15 on 241 points. A good day for the iRace esports driver. But now, coming on to the Pro-Am IMB Racewear Drivers' Championship provisional stands after 5 rounds of racing. And here you can see a bit more of the damage that has been dealt to Isaac Doble's lead when the results are adjusted. In the fact, only 95 points gained today. He's picked up consistent points, and indeed, much like his brother Mikey, you could argue that Isaac using today as perhaps a drop score in waiting, but also making sure to make the points count, particularly in race number 3. But that advantage he has had been slashed quite significantly to Matthew Addy. The gap now down to from 622 to 569. Well, if you do the mathematics there, that is the best part of 53 points. But still, it's a margin he will hold on to. And meanwhile, the Sam Casey's next-gen driver there moves into P2 ahead of Alex Meredith, with the two drivers only 10 points apart in terms of the points they gained from this round, and 7 points between them in the championship. So Alex Meredith not out of this yet, but aware of the fact the hunt is on, with Matthew Addy having a resurgence of form today, and Daniel Down as well, P4 on 527 points. points, keep your eyes out for the Goldwing Motorsports driver. He is showing a lot of pace, as is Sam Van Olst into P5 on 472 points, one ahead of Sam Smith. But the key point being here is that Van Olst right now definitely enjoying some of his finest racing. A bit of bad luck intervening, but I would imagine that Van Olst will definitely, if luck stays with him in terms of positive luck, he'll be jumping into the top 4. Smith in P6, the iRacing esports driver, having an off day today, it would seem, as was Ben Altrier there with the difficulties in what was particularly race number 3, besetting him and costing him some key points, but still, he's on 469 points, only 2 off of Smith and a further point off of Van Olst, and a further was 18 points behind Alan McCain, with Paul Scott and Jay Clay completing your top 10, and Clay moving into P10 with the absence of Fraser Elphick today on the grid, and Paul Scott holding on to P9, but Clay continues to rise, and with Fraser Elphick best of the rest now, P11 on 316 points. It's only 5 between him and Matthew Cheverton. Duncan Rise, P13 ahead of Luke Jones, and Stephen Fry makes his way into P15 on 260 points there in a solid day today, and in fact his best round of the season for Stephen Fry, and some magic starting to be worked in the P739 Motorsports Garage. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our recap of the provisional standings coming out of this round, and it now is indeed time for us to bring things to a close. But thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the Next Gen Racing community, perhaps you want to be on the grid for a future season of the NXTCC or other series that we've got upcoming, including the return of the GT3 League and also the Prototype Championship, which is dedicated to prototypes across multiple classes of prototype racing. Well, to find out about that and all and plenty more, well, firstly, we'd recommend you check out our official website. That's nextgenracing.co.uk, and our website appearing on screen now. It's the home of clean and fair sim racing for all. Indeed, whether you're a newcomer to sim racing or a seasoned esports veteran, we would love to have you as part of the community. The more the merrier, and we're all here for one another at Next Gen Racing. And given we're coming on to what is the 17th year of hosting leagues and series in our group, well, we mostly are now on PC, particularly on iRacing, but we've been on console in the past and a whole variety of simulation platforms, and we'd love to have you as part of the community as we go from strength to strength and head towards 2024. But if you don't want to necessarily join our website or head to our website today, you can, of course, also follow us on social media, and the best place to do so is via our Facebook group, and that is at facebook.com/groups/NextGen Racing. Well, there you can find out similar details, much like on our website, but also you can find out a little bit more about the admins and staff members at Next Gen Racing, particularly what goes on behind the scenes, both on the simulator and also the real world of motorsport, where a good number of our staff members are real world track marshals, and even some are racing drivers. We'd also like to take this moment to say a big thank you to our sponsors, who do include PowerMax, Next Level Racing, Mark Sykes Designs, Joyce Design, Sam Cases UK, Douglas Motorsport and Benji Sim Photos, and a special mention to our title sponsor for this season of the NXTCC, IMB Racewear, the sim racing and real-life racing racewear provider that prides itself on individuality with their fully custom designs, enabling you to make the impact you have always wanted to on track, as their racewear is designed for you by you. Head to their website, imbracewear.com, to find out more about IMB Racewear's fully customizable product range, which brings benefits you just cannot get from off-the-shelf products. Their website again, imbracewear.com. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now look ahead to round number 6. And there's not quite a break coming up as of yet, because next Tuesday, on Tuesday the 19th of December, we stay in Germany but make our way to the neighbouring motorsport arena Oschersleben for what is expected to be an absolutely scintillating set of races to send us off to the second mid-season break, and just in time for Christmas. Indeed, you could argue it could be an early Christmas present, but it'd be an early Christmas present for one of our championship contenders in the overall championship. And for Isaac Doble in the Prime Championship, can he turn things around after a difficult day at the Nürburgring and leave the field behind once again? All that and more will be found out in a week's time. But until then, we've been Next Gen Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.